One day, the main character learned that she had been accepted into the most famous university in Korea. However, her feelings at that moment were very strange. At night, one of the maids announced that a princess had been born in the palace. None of the other workers could believe it, including the child's mother herself, who does not believe that a girl was born into the Velocian imperial family. It was hard for her because she knows that only boys should be born in this family. His Majesty considered that a useless thing had been born. They clarified for him that there was a mark of Narvadol on the child's hand. Everyone who is born with this mark on their body dies at 21. But in response to this, the man calmly said that he didn't care. After these words, His Majesty silently turned around and left the room. The girl's mother apologized to her for giving her life in such a place. The little girl was reaching out to her mother, and the maid assumed that she wanted to be closer. The woman hugged her child and asked her for forgiveness. But the main character mentally promised that when she grows up, she will become better. The main character knows about the strongest in this world. She knows about the magicians who will change this world in the future, about magical energy. This whole world is described in the novel that the main character read. Velocian is an imperial family that is featured in the novel. This is a family in which there are many cruel rules. Only men can learn magical abilities. The girl born as the daughter of the Velocian family is our main character. She mentally answered her mother that she was okay and there was no need to cry. When she first opened her eyes to this world, she was surprised. After all, she managed to reread this novel about 17 times. Isabel was a sickly child from birth due to the mark on her hand. But until she turns 21, she can live peacefully. Either way, she was given 21 years to live. The woman asked Isabel if she was currently comforting her mother. Looking into her eyes, she asked the girl if she understood her words. Isabel replied that she understood, but it sounded like mere sounds. In Korea, she was an orphan and had been battling cancer since the age of 4. And in contrast to her health, she had an incredibly sharp mind. But she wasn't so happy because she knew how it would end. The mother asked if her daughter really understood what she was saying. According to the maid, the princess was a real genius. At that moment, after these words, the main character laughed loudly. The maid was touched by her, telling the woman that she liked compliments. But even if this was not the case, the mother said that everything was fine. She just wanted her daughter to grow up healthy. There is a tradition that has existed in the Velocian family for a long time. However, here everything is much more serious than in my previous homeland. Isabel had already seen her father, but she was meeting her brothers for the first time. Isabel can't believe she's seeing the characters from the novel she's read in person. Even if she looks at them for 20 years, she won't get tired of it. That thing in the middle is truly a great sword and the symbol of the Velocian family. For generations, the princes of the family have chosen the tsunami sword. Isabel believed that everything would be fine, but there was still one problem. Her main task is to overcome the first crisis that could end her life. The Council of the Sword is an organization that was instrumental in the restoration of the Velocian family to the throne. Isabel remembered that as soon as she touched the sword, the killer would appear before her. But if she hopes for luck, she will definitely die. And this arrangement does not suit her because she is not the Isabel from the novel. She cannot die without enjoying the sight of these beautiful people. And Isabel also couldn't refuse various sweets. The heroine is obliged to eat her fill of food that she could not eat due to illness. She asked them to wait until she could enjoy life to the fullest. She needs to move away a little from the main plot of the novel. As she crawled closer, His Majesty ordered her to choose her sword. Isabel knows that if she chooses Tsunami, she will be attacked immediately. But if she chooses another, no one will accept her as a princess. She can choose the Emperor's sword and at the same time grab her father. In the end, Isabel decided that this decision was justified. Remembering the killer, she became so scared that now she can't move. Despite her memories of her past life, she still remains in the body of a child. Isabel must move forward boldly and leave her fears behind. All the members of the Dream Council watched her nervously, and as Isabel crawled, she hummed a song to make her fear disappear. His Majesty asked seriously what this strange child was doing. There is a possibility that the child instinctively remembers magical songs. This is a rare yet confirmed phenomenon. While they were sorting this out, Isabella waited for the right moment. His Majesty said with displeasure that this was all absurd. But, one way or another, he agreed that this phenomenon is rare. After all, this girl has Velocian blood in her veins. They didn't understand where the Princess of the Swordsman Empire got her gift for magic spells. Isabel didn't think the steps would be so high. The stairs designed for adults are simply enormous. And yet she is glad that the killer never appeared because she did not touch the sword. The heroine decided that she would get to the top on her own. Isabel is surprised that she doesn't have any pain in her heart or lungs now. She was indeed fine, although out of breath. In the past, taking a deep breath would cause a tingling sensation in her chest. And the last thing she decided to do was pass gas. The moment the heroine had been waiting for all this time had arrived. She was able to pronounce the word dad perfectly after practicing. While she was hugging his leg, she heard someone say that she was cute. It turned out to be her eldest son, Sermon, who smiled at her and said hello. The girl smiled at him and replied that he was cute too. Thus, the third and second sons, Mikhail and Carmen, were born. They started arguing that they couldn't compete in cuteness. The girl, looking at them, became embarrassed and laughed quietly. Isabel didn't want to laugh, but now she just can't help herself. Perhaps, in her opinion, it is all because of the dazzling nature of her brothers. The boys from Gemrimvon can't say a word. Their assassination attempt has failed, and after the ceremony they won't be able to say anything either. So the main character decided to finish what she started as quickly as possible. She is not Tsunami, but the Emperor's sword, so she chooses her father. And when she was able to climb onto her father's lap, she was able to call him Daddy. All this time, she diligently practiced her pronunciation. It must be explained that Isabel chose her father's sword of her own free will. Lord Byton realized that it seemed the princess had made her choice. He was surprised that Isabel could understand them and even respond. Byton was glad that Isabel chose the Emperor because he was the best sword in the Empire. But His Majesty asked him if he really thought he could talk to a baby. Byton explains that 1-year-olds can talk. And the Emperor asked him to prove it, but Byton did not mind. He asks the princess if she clearly understands what he is saying. It seems that His Majesty does not yet realize this, as he thinks. His Majesty was too talented a child, and the fact that he couldn't talk at that age doesn't mean that the princess can't. Ron is a natural-born hero, but he achieves everything on his own. Ron said angrily that Byton was talking nonsense. But Byton ignores him and asks Isabel to try winking. She winks and Byton compliments her on her excellent work. After that, he asked her to wink with the other eye, and the girl managed to do it. Everyone around smiled when they looked at Isabel, because all children are funny. Byton asks if Ron accepts her winks as proof. Isabel felt a little scared when she saw the way her father looked at her. At that moment, he raised his knee, causing the girl to think she was falling. Ron caught her, saying that Isabel doesn't even have control over her own body. Isabel felt ashamed of this because everyone was looking at her, and while she was hiding her face, Ron asked her name. She said her name was Isabella, and then she said his name. Ron made sure that she really understood all his questions. After this, he gives the child to Byton, saying that she has made a choice. But the man asked Byton which sword the princess had chosen. Byton replied that she had chosen His Majesty, the Empire's strongest blade. His Majesty announced that the secretary would record the princess's choice. The ceremony ended successfully. The change to the original was successful. Isabella was afraid that she might suddenly wake up in the hospital again. She doesn't want to experience that pain again, like in her past life. The main character will be happy to live to 21. She wanted to take care of everyone and not even ask for love in return. Some time passed and Isabel finally woke up. She felt something very unusual about being in her daddy's arms. Byton told the princess that if she was tired, she could rest some more. But the heroine understood that she couldn't, and she had to endure. At that moment, tears suddenly welled up in her eyes. In the original, the imperial family is ruthless and bloodthirsty. Byton said with a smile that Isabella was quite a noisy girl. But the tears flow against her will, and she cannot stop. Byton asked Ron to let him help try to calm her down. And as soon as he took her in his arms, the main character calmed down. Byton suggested that it seemed more comfortable to sleep on. Ron said it was all because Byton simply had no muscles. Holding the girl close, Byton said he would take her to the nursery. In fact, Byton was glad to see the princess smile. He told her that without a smile, she would not be a person, but a monster. Isabella laughed quietly at what she heard. Just think how such a kind man was a mercenary. But for the main character, this was undoubtedly the author's mistake. Byton thinks Isabel is cute and lovely, so several months have passed since Isabella's birth. Thanks to food, she grows and her vocabulary increases. Isabella's mother was glad that her daughter spoke so well. The mother and nanny always looked at the girl tenderly. They say that even in the magical association, there are no children who remember spells well. The nanny said that the princess was undoubtedly born a genius. The mother and nanny watched in surprise as the girl began to do push-ups. The main character would never have thought that she would be so dependent on attention. At 2 years old, Isabella does what some people can't do even at 20. Ron comes into the room and asks the woman why she is so happy. For the first time since the ceremony, Isabella heard his voice. Her mother asked him if he could knock first before entering. The man, without thinking for long, leaves the room. And then, just like she said, he knocks on the door. She looked out and asked if this was really her beloved emperor. They say that although Ron doesn't like children, Isabella's mother loved him for a long time. The nanny puts the girl to bed, deciding to make some tea for now. Isabella doesn't understand why she's not the only child here. She thought that in the novella, the father would be the next one to console the mother. But still, she was still offended by her father's words that she was useless. Isabel took the idea positively, that her dad missed her mom and went to her. Dad was the strongest, rivaling the main character. His only weakness was Isabella's mother. And after my mother's death, my father stopped eating and drinking. He just cried. He weakened and was eventually defeated by the protagonist. He is actually a nice guy who cares about his wife. Isabella doesn't understand why the diaper suddenly feels heavier than usual. Ron asked what this strange child was doing, and she actually called him. Isabella liked the color of his eyes and thought she should have the same. Suddenly the girl tells her dad that she loves him. Isabella surprised herself by saying this. The girl thought that this meant that it was her instinct. Ron, as if not believing her words, asked her to repeat it. Isabella felt embarrassed and awkward about the situation. She thought she did something wrong because her father looked angry. She literally wanted to disappear because of the ringing silence in the room. Even though they are father and daughter, they don't seem to have a close relationship. She looked at her father and only became convinced that he was angry. But at that moment, her mother came up to her and said that she was not angry with her. She tells the girl that her father is much more shy than she thinks. Ron's wife tells him that he can be honest with his daughter. She explained that he didn't need to be afraid of his family. When Isabella's mother asked her what she told her every day, she replied that there was no need to be shy. When Isabella started talking about hugs, her mum asked her to tell her dad. The girl became embarrassed and panicked because she was afraid. But, deciding to give it a try, she asked her dad if he could hug her, and then Ron asks her why she wants this. A moment from her past life surfaced in her memories. For some reason, she felt awkward about this, because now she had a different life. Roth says that a princess can't be so spoiled. This answer was expected, but Isabella suddenly felt like she was about to fall. She was sure that nothing would change, but suddenly her father took her in his arms. The girl was simply shocked that her dad was able to hug her. He doesn't hold her like he did at the ceremony, but actually hugs her. His wife explained to him that he should hold his head a little differently to make it more comfortable. She asked him to imagine that he was not just holding her, but hugging her. Ron said Isabella was too easy, but that didn't surprise him. But the maids and the nanny say that Isabella is quite heavy. She remembered how they worried about their firstborn, Sermon, who was growing slowly. And yet, Isabella is doing well with this. Her mother is sure that she will grow up strong. Isabella feels the warmth of her father, feels the warmth of his hand. This way she could understand what it meant to be protected by a family. In her past life, she did not see her father because he abandoned her as a child. But now everything was different. Now she lives in the body of another person. Isabella told her dad that her mom had a gift for him. At this moment, Ron thought, imagining something. When his wife called him, he brushed it off by saying he was simply lost in thought. Isabella doesn't understand what's going on and what kind of atmosphere this is. Isabella's mother thinks that the heart knows the value of life most powerfully. But his wife liked Ron's softer side because at such moments he was different. Isabella felt her father's heart beating fast. It turns out that her dad really can't resist her mommy. Isabella was afraid that his heart wouldn't be able to handle such compliments. She has no intention of interfering in their personal lives. She knows when to intervene and when to retreat. Already at night, when Ron went outside, he was haunted by a strange feeling. He thought it was either because Isabella wasn't a Velocian or because she looked like Cerna. The man is confused because Isabella cannot grasp the Velocian fencing techniques. The weak will be easily defeated for the throne and will lose to an external enemy. He doesn't know whether such people can be called receivers and whether they can be summoned. All this seemed unreasonable and useless to the man. The fate is already predetermined, and because of this his mind is in turmoil. Baton was indignant when His Majesty made him wake up in the middle of the night. Ron suddenly informs him of a duel that will take place right at dawn. Baton said Ron represents honesty and justice. And then Ron reported that it looked like someone had lied about their previous job. Time flies, and now our main character is already 3 years old. A maid looked into Isabella's room and told her about the Queen's arrival. Velocian blood helped Isabella grow up quickly. She's not sure, but by Korean standards she would be about 5. Isabella can now speak with almost no difficulty. Now she can walk and run, although she sometimes stumbles. From today onwards, Lord Baton will be visiting Isabel's mother. She reminds him that this is Isabella's first teacher and asks him not to forget her manners. The woman clarifies that Lord Moliab no longer works for them. Moliab is an old teacher who has taught several generations. Isabel asked her mother why she chose Baton, but she replied that she could ask herself. Isabella always had fun with Lord Baton. She likes him very much. He is a swordsman from a family of wizards and knows how to use magic. Soon, when Lord Baton arrived, he greeted the princess. From today on, he will be responsible for Isabella's education. The girl approached him and wished him good morning. Isabella's mother was touched by their relationship. She asked Baton to take care of the princess. The girl decided to ask why he became her teacher. Lord Baton thought that the princess only liked Moliab. He jokingly said that he was going to cry, and Isabella panicked. Baton is surprised that she doesn't like the way he cries. Isabella saw through his game, and he told her she was amazing. Pointing her finger at him, Isabella warned that this was a bad habit. He deliberately used difficult words, and Isabella threatened to turn him into a cockroach. Lord Baton promised that it would not happen again. Finally, Isabella suggested that they discuss what they would do. She hoped that they could come to an agreement, since she didn't have much time left. Baton was surprised that the princess understood what death was. He became curious about who this person was who dared to talk about this. At that moment, Isabella remembered the devil's sword. The girl screamed and ordered him not to hurt the weak. She asked why he was angry with the nanny. Lord Baton admitted he was mistaken and apologized. And Isabella reminds him that he made a mistake, not in front of her. Therefore, the Lord approached the nanny and apologized to her too. Isabella forgave him, but asked him not to do it again. The Lord decided to ask who told the princess about the seal of Narvidal. The main character began to think about what to answer. In a panic, she replied that she had heard it from the midwife, and he was surprised that the girl remembered that time. She says that after she was born, her mother cried because she was useless. Isabella sincerely hoped that Lord Baton would believe her words. And then the guy suggested that she must be very sad. The girl made an excuse that everything was fine now and that everything had passed. In fact, her father's words were familiar to her. Lord Baton suddenly takes her hand and tells her that her hand is covered in jelly. The question arose whether a 3-year-old child could understand death. Ron also wondered if this was possible. Lord Baton confirmed this because he saw it all himself. He says that the girl doesn't care and is calm about it. Baton mentions that the princess remembers everything she has heard since birth. Then he asks Ron if he told the girl that she was useless. Ignoring his words, he asked if Isabella was okay. He was surprised that she was okay, despite the fact that she understood everything. Byton says how Isabel spoke those words with incredible calm. He clarifies that just because Isabella doesn't know the technique doesn't mean she's useless. Byton didn't come here to interrogate Ron, but simply to tell him everything. Ron suggests that he take the sword because they haven't trained for a long time. Byton says he is a teacher now, not a killer. He guesses that Ron regrets what he said about Isabella. From that day on, her mentor Lord Byton came every day. Although Isabel doesn't study fencing, there are many other useful things. One of those days she showed the Lord her drawing. Byton praised the excellent picture and asked who had given it to her. The girl proudly asked him who he thought could have done this. She was a little embarrassed when he said that it was definitely not drawn for her. But his face blossomed with surprise when Isabella said that she had drawn it herself. Smiling, the main character asked if she really drew well. Lord Byton praised her, saying it was wonderful. He said that if a spirit were to inhabit her body, the knights would immediately come to subdue it. Explaining that this is called possession, Byton says that this is why holy knights exist. It's really amazing, and Isabella almost got into trouble. She became scared, but Byton said that they had holy knights. He has friends among such knights, and he is ready to introduce them to her. Lord Byton couldn't believe Isabella was so smart. He explained to her that it was not difficult for the holy knights to make time for her. The Lord didn't want Isabella to worry, and she didn't want to meet them. In my past life, there was little entertainment in the hospital room. Isabella misspoke when she said she was little. Now she doesn't know how to express herself correctly to get out of it. But Lord Byton nodded and told her that he understood her. The girl breathed a sigh of relief because she had escaped without any problems. Byton understands that even a 3-year-old child has a childhood. The princess thinks that she has grown up enough. Her sweetness makes his heart skip a beat. Isabella was worried, but Byton said everything was fine. He doesn't know what to do when the princess is so cute. Isabella got bored and asked Byton to play something. After some time, Byton shows Isabella's drawing to Ron. The man didn't understand why he needed this trash, and Byton became indignant. Ron says it looks like a boring painting, but the Lord mentions that it was not he who drew it, but a 3-year-old child. He says there is something unusual about this painting. The texture of the leather is simply incredible. It enhances the beauty. Suggesting a closer look, Byton notes that even Ron's eyes are drawn here. His Majesty, whom he knows, always seems gloomy and angry. Ron throws a dart at him and nearly rips the sleeve of his clothes. Ron asked him to finish speaking and get out. He was tired of the chatter. And then Byton says that this drawing belongs to the princess. He was amazed by her powers of observation, and he always recognizes the surprising. Although Isabella doesn't see her father often, she clearly depicted all the details. Byton says this observation comes from a genuine affection. He asked Ron if he couldn't see how much she loved him, and he knows that this will make Ron very happy. The Lord was surprised that Ron didn't know that the princess loved him. Then the man asked the Lord if he was jealous. Byton was outraged by these words, saying that he was not a dung beetle. The princess never told Byton that she loved him, and now Ron asks what Byton really meant. His Majesty asked the Lord to speak quickly and without hesitation, all because he is sure that this is not what Byton came to talk about. And since he speaks so seriously, Byton has no choice but to speak. It seems that the princess has an incredible talent for magical engineering. That's why Lord Byton has a favor to ask of Ron. Isabella realizes that she now has big problems. She meets Karin, who will teach her from that day on. This is where the novel's main villain appears. The princess must receive professional magical education. Ron asked if Byton really wanted him to bring the magician, but he reminds that magic is prohibited in the palace. Either way, Lord Byton has reason to be confident. Firstly, the princess understands and feels magic. This has already been proven through baptism and resonance magic. Secondly, she is able to create magic circles and drawings. She is dexterous and observant. This can be proven with the help of the drawing. And finally, Isabella has a talent for mathematics. At just 3 years old, the girl understands the concept of numbers. Isabella counts the amount of jelly accurately, which is impressive. Considering all this, Byton is confident that she has magical talent. So he asked if Ron was allowed to hire a tutor for Isabella. So 3 months have already passed since this conversation. Isabella glares at Karin, not knowing what to do. Karin asked her how she was, and Isabel replied that she was fine. In the original, Karin was a terrible mage with huge ambitions. She is a cunning and intelligent woman, capable of anything to achieve her goals. Karin betrayed her teacher by becoming the master of the mages. It turns out that she even deceived the teacher. She is so terrible. As the story progresses, she meets the main character, Aaron, who becomes emperor. But no matter how strong Karin's magic is, she can't defeat Aaron. Aaron won several times, and Karin put a curse on the main character. In the end, Karin left a will for Aaron and closed her eyes. Unfortunately, Isabella doesn't know what happened next. While everyone was shocked by the death of the heroine, something else happened. It turned out that the heroine was a dragon. In this world, dragons are masters of magic. These are the only creatures capable of removing the mark of Narvidal. This meant that a normal magic curse could not work. After the heroine sealed her memories, she realized that she was a dragon. In other words, there is no one stronger than the main character. Even the most powerful female characters cannot interfere with his fate. But Isabella lived only 3 years, and the villain had already appeared. At the age of 3, the heroine faced her greatest challenge. Karin noticed that the heroine was a little different from ordinary people. Using this as an excuse, she began to restrict her. The heroine also faced problems, but what happened to Isabella began too early. Just thinking about it makes her stomach hurt. Now she can't act like an adult. So there is only one way out, and Isabella says that she wants to study with Byton. The girl says that she wants to study with him because she likes him more. The only way out was to throw a tantrum. Isabella wondered how Karin would react to this. She wanted Kane to let her get everything out that had built up. Isabella thinks that Karin should be worried now. Her intense gaze reminds Isabella of her father. In the original, the only one who could stop Karin was Aaron. The original tells the story of the awakening of a boy who was bullied by Karin. If Aaron doesn't become emperor, then that means he can leave the villainess. With different inputs, Karin and Aaron won't have to fight. And then someone from their family will have to fight the villain. Karin's goal is to control the world. In the original, the strongest people were Ron and the main character. And if Isabella lives a good life, her mother will not die, and her father will not become weak. The girl thought that she should pretend that nothing had happened. But the main character received a gift at 21. Karin said that if she continued like this, studying would be difficult. It takes closeness between teacher and student to master magic. Even Isabella found this turn of events unexpected. Suddenly, the girl tells Karin that she is beautiful and she really likes her. Isabel decided to use her life to protect her family. In the end, she promised the teacher that she would study hard. Thus, we are transferred to the next day. When Karin entered the room, Isabella immediately closed the door. Karin wanted to say something, but the girl asked her to be quiet. She came closer to her and showed her a piece of the remaining jelly. Isabella saved one peach-flavored jelly for Karin. She smiles and asks the girl to take the jelly. Now her secret weapon was activated. Karin promised to pick up the jelly after the end of the lesson. Isabella promised herself not to let her guard down. Luckily, the main character is an incredibly sweet child. During the lesson, she asked Karin how old she was. And then the girl began to bombard her with various questions. She asked these questions to gather information. Karin said she heard that her name was chosen after a flower. She doesn't have any food preferences, but she doesn't particularly like fatty foods. And suddenly the next day, Karin asked if Isabella knew about the mark. They finally got to that point, and the girl answered honestly that she knew. Later, Karin uses Narvidal's curse to put the heroine in danger. Perhaps Karin contacted her to study her mark. Since Isabella knows about her death, she wants to give everyone happiness. Karin asked if Isabella was scared to think about it. The girl replied that she considered this life a gift. Meeting Karin's teacher is also a gift for her, so she is not afraid. If they had met 20 years later, she would have been more afraid. Isabella wondered if people would be sad when she died. She doesn't want anyone to be sad because of her. She was surprised that Karin remained silent in response to her words. But when she looked up, she saw tears on Karen's face. When Isabella asked if she was crying, Karen turned away. If you believe the original, this shouldn't have happened. That's why the girl thought that Karen was just pretending. In the novel, Karen was good at pretending. If she hadn't read the novel, she would have been in big trouble. Karen asked Isabel not to be so calm when it came to death. The teacher told Isabella that she was a good girl. She asked her to let her spend this frightening time with her. Isabella suddenly hugged her and told Karen that she was the best. The girl was a little embarrassed, but smiled and hugged her back. Isabella realizes that Karen is a psychopath, but she has no choice. She managed to hug her and hide her expression. Karen took revenge on Wilhelm and took the top post. There remained many followers of Wilhelm among the magicians. And at that time, the only way out for Karen was war. Karen expanded her power with stunning magic. She began to feel a freedom she had never felt before. Ironically, her life was marked by wars and conquests. Later, Karen asked Isabella if she understood that part. Isabella couldn't be fooled, so she said yes. So the teacher decided that they could take things seriously. The girl explains to Isabella that she is still very young. Karen plans to teach Isabella slowly, from the very beginning. It may seem unusual, but magic is not so bad. The main character didn't know that Isabella was originally trained in magic. Thus, 6 months have already passed. Karen asked Isabella to try to sense mana, and she asked her to try to concentrate on the stone. Isabella tried to imagine a rapid flow of mana. It doesn't look like the Empire ever had a princess who dealt with magic. So there is nothing special about this training. The barrier is very strong. Isabella learned the basics of magic after 6 months. The color of the barrier turned out to be much more surprising. It shines with 5 colors, and this is the first time Karen has seen something like this with her own eyes. Now she asked Isabella to imagine herself lifting a stone. Isabella was able to lift the stone into the air using magic. Now Karen asked the girl to try to move the stone. After several attempts, Isabella failed. Isabella was confused as she spoke, but it was funny. The girl wanted to try again and asked if it was possible. But she was surprised when Karina remained silent in response. Meanwhile, Karen noticed that the table was almost broken. If she hadn't used absorption magic, something terrible would have happened. And if Karen is right, then the princess really is destined to become a magician. Karen told the princess that she had worked hard today too. The girl was glad to be praised, but Karen noted that this was not praise. But Isabel wasn't upset and asked to be praised next time. Karen replied that everything depended only on the princess herself. Isabella wondered if mages could fly, and it turned out they could. However, they don't really like to do this because they are afraid of falling and dying. From tomorrow, they will begin official magic lessons. When Karen left, the main character breathed a sigh of relief. Isabella came close to being caught. Karen is frightening when she talks about death. Karen returned to her quiet, dark room and collapsed tiredly onto her bed. The girl couldn't help but be touched by how cute Isabella was. She finds it hard to believe that the princess is so cute. It's hard to even imagine what we'll have to do if Isabella becomes nicer. But Kane needs to calm down and regain his composure. She knows that Byton will turn a blind eye even to the princess's most serious crime. And she understands that she needs to become stricter. Enormous talent at a young age destroys. Karen remembered how, as a child, one boy was indignant that she couldn't be with him. Pushing her, he angrily asked how she dared refuse him. From this moment, one can understand that Karen had a difficult childhood. Her parents abandoned her in an orphanage, and she had a hard time adapting. Mikhail's friends and he himself began to mock her after her refusal. And the teachers never supported little Karen. It was easy for them to tell each other to hold hands and make peace. Karen had to endure it in silence because the teachers didn't like noise. One day, a magician, who recognized her magical talent, came for her. That day, the girl felt hope for the first time in her life. She couldn't believe that this man was actually taking her. And only then did Karen realize that she was not okay. The man who adopted her was the head of the magic association, Wilhelm. From now on, Wilhelm asked Karen to call him Dad. But, unfortunately, even with him, the nightmares did not end. Wilhelm, whom everyone considered an angel, was a two-faced madman. He was a hideous monster in human form, and at some point, a desire for revenge began to grow in Karin's heart. It's just that at some point she decided to continue living for the sake of revenge, and so Karin then began to practice magic even more diligently. At 20, she became the youngest first-class magician. A child with the mark of Narvidal could help her in her research. That's what Karin thought until she met the princess. She remembers how the princess bombarded her with questions. Karin realized that this was the first time anyone had asked about her. Karin found it charming how Isabel calmly shared things with her. Isabella considers life a gift, even though she knows she will die, and she believed that among her gifts was Karin herself. Karin doesn't know if she's ever been that special to anyone else. After meeting the princess, her world took on new colors. In fact, Karin simply saw herself in the princess. And that's why Karin wanted to help the princess. Isabella is going through a hard time, and Karin wants to share it with her. Karin requested an audience with His Majesty the Emperor. She tells Ron that Isabel will start serious lessons tomorrow. Karin does not forget to note the girl's great potential. From the outside, it seems that the Emperor doesn't care about the princess. And this is understandable because she cannot learn fencing techniques. But there is something else here. Maybe he is proud of Isabella. Speaking about the need for money for training, Ron asked to contact Byton. Karin was surprised to learn that price didn't matter. The girl suddenly felt that she and the Emperor were similar. This is it, the understanding that is established between first-class people. The Emperor is like her, but he hasn't realized it yet. Ron may still be in the early stages. Karin asked if he didn't understand how strong Isabel's magical talent was. In magic, talent is the most important thing. Without it, everything else is inaccessible. Karin says that this is usually the first thing people ask. Ron said that it seemed like Karin had forgotten where she was. Karin apologized, momentarily forgetting herself. In the Empire of Swordsmen, the smallest achievements are more important than success in magic. Before she leaves, Ron asks if Isabella is happy. Karin replied that yes, commenting on how widely the girl was smiling. It was the first time a parent had asked her about something like that. Usually they asked if their child would survive. It seems that the rumors about Ron's hatred of the princess are not true. Karin asked if Ron had any plans to end this misunderstanding. But he thinks it's ridiculous to put effort into such nonsense. The girl realized that Ron had a strong character and he didn't care about rumors. Their meeting had dragged on, and now it was definitely time for Karin to go. Several days pass and we are transferred to Seoul. Envoys from different factions gathered to celebrate the Emperor's birthday. Countless people gathered in Seoul. Ron's wife reminds him not to show irritation, because this is an important diplomatic event. The man nodded several times in promise. Ron can't believe this boring banquet will last a week. Ron meets some people he sees for the first time. Women admired him and constantly discussed him. A congratulatory speech will take place before the gift presentation ceremony. The gift for His Majesty was asked to be handled with care. While Isabella was walking, her nanny found her and asked what she was doing there. The girl smiled and showed the nanny a beautiful flower. Isabella showed how she can make this flower shine. And then the flower suddenly blossomed. Isabel decided to give the flower to her nanny, who intended to keep it carefully. As soon as Isabella learned to walk, she began to run everywhere. She was happy, and her racing heart didn't hurt. The absence of pain made Isabella happy, but suddenly at that moment something terrible appears behind her. The girl asks in surprise who he is. This is a man trying to figure out whether Isabella is adopted or not. She told him that she had a dad, and he asked who he was. When she said it was the Emperor, the man laughed. He assumes that Isabella is not loved because she was not given security. But now this man ordered Isabella to follow him. She asked him if he really wanted to steal her, but he promised the girl to make her the greatest magician. Isabella thought he was smart, and the man asked if she knew him. If you think a little, you can probably find the answer. Since he moves freely under the palace, it means he is a guest. A skilled magician who seeks children with outstanding talent. There aren't many people who fit that description. Pointing her finger at him, Isabella says that this is Wilhelm. Karin's adoptive father and an outstanding magician, that's definitely him. but the man said she had confused him with him. Isabella was only convinced that this man was stupid. He, not understanding, asks her what she is talking about, and at that moment, Byton suddenly appears behind him. As he strikes, he asks why the man came alone. Isabella runs up to the maid and asks her if she is okay. Byton was not surprised that the man did not resist. He realized that this was not his real body, but his magical projection. Since he was trying to kidnap Isabella, Byton asked him not to think that there would be no traces left. Byton tells him that he is very good at finding evidence. And besides this, Byton also leaves no traces. He realized that he could not speak cruel words in front of the princess. So he told the man that he would find him and befriend him. After this, the nanny worriedly asked Isabel if she was okay. Byton was worried about the princess when he saw that she was not worried. But Isabella asked why she should be afraid. She told him that he was here, although Byton thought that he arrived late. Isabella knows that Byton was trying to understand the bad uncle's purpose. Smiling brightly, the girl told Byton that she believed in him. Byton is almost in tears that the princess is so witty. Isabella wondered if Byton had been as vulnerable in the original. She doesn't know why she needs to speak beautifully while she's waving her sword furiously. Byton is very gentle and kind, so this can't be. He feels sad that Isabella thinks this way about him. But anyway, it was cool and she told him he was the best. This man dared to attack the princess in the imperial palace. Byton promises the princess to find out who it was. And he said that he really enjoys making new friends. Byton will call the knights and it will be safe here. When he left, Isabella decided to play a little more. Another advantage of being a child is that everything loses its meaning. The nanny noticed that Isabella was making a ring for her dad. She said that the emperor was now at a banquet. Isabella asked her not to worry because she would give the ring herself. The nanny carried the girl to the banquet hall herself. But when they reached the door, the guards forbade them to enter. Isabella was outraged that they did not recognize her and asked them to let her in. Her name meant nothing to them. Their faces were puzzled. But they were even more confused when she said she was joking. The girl doesn't understand why the guards don't believe she's a princess. But at the same time, it cannot be said that she is famous. Isabella asked them to state their names and ranks. They said that it was not right to behave like that here and asked the nanny to take her away. But Isabel doesn't listen to them and again asks them to state their names. The knights in charge of the banquet hall do not recognize the face of the imperial person. If they have problems, they can report it to the captain. They are already shaking with fear, and Isabel hopes that they believe her. There are many eyes watching Isabella, and every action will have consequences. On this day, Wilhelm presents a gift created by the founder magician. Ron's wife told him that he should thank Wilhelm, the rising star of the Miratel Magical Association and the Velocian Sword Empire. The emperor suddenly heard a noise outside the door and a familiar voice. The man cast a mysterious glance at the door. His wife noticed that he was somewhat absent-minded. She said they deeply appreciated the gift and thanked Wilhelm. In the future, she will personally go to him and express her gratitude. Ron rises from his seat and orders Isabella to be let in. The knights near the door tensed when they heard the order. They began to frantically apologize for not recognizing the princess. But Isabella smiled and told them that she forgave them. She promised the knights to talk to the Pope about this. The girl asked them to buy her some jelly as an apology. Isabella found herself inside and told Ron that she had a gift for him. People began to whisper that the princess had a dirty face. Some say that a real empress is graceful and pure. They discuss how this girl looks like an orphan. Isabella asks her father to accept the gift, and he asks what it is. Showing him the ring, she asks if she can come over. But the man himself came down to her and sat down next to her. Ron sees that Isabella made this ring herself. He also noticed that she got a little dirty in the process. She felt bad about it, but she just didn't have time. Isabel wants to express her feelings and emotions sincerely. The girl smiles and says that she is glad that her dad is here. The emperor said that he liked Isabella's gift. Serna asks her husband if he understands that his actions at the banquet have raised questions. She tells him how he smiled when his daughter arrived. Ron denies it, but Serna proves otherwise. Moreover, he called Isabella's gift the best. Because of his birthday, they couldn't finish the business. They won't be able to see Isabella for about 3 months or more. The man took her hand and left a kiss on his wife's wrist. Several days pass in this way. Isabella, noticing her dad, immediately runs up to him. Ron warns his daughter that he and her mother will not be able to visit her for a while. Stroking her head, he said that they were leaving on business. The girl asked when they would return, and he replied that before her birthday. Isabella began to count on her fingers how long it would take. She calculated that she would have to stay away from her parents for 8 months. She wished time would go faster because she would miss him very much. Dad was surprised that she wanted to see him so much, and the girl told him that she would wait with impatience. She noticed how her dad wanted to hug her but didn't. Instead, he petted her again, promising to return as soon as possible. The man gave her promise and kissed her on the forehead. Later, Byton catches up with Ron and asks what the princess told him. He tells him that she will miss him and wait for him. Byton envies His Majesty, hoping that they will overcome their defeat. Rolling his eyes, Ron says he never saw Byton as a rival. Byton thought that calm arrogance was also a talent. He feels depressed and needs to vent his frustration. Byton thought he needed to take it out on someone. Once he finds evidence about that person, he will fight him. Time flies very quickly, and so these 8 months pass. The nanny comes to Isabella and congratulates her on her birthday. 5 years have passed since she was 21, and Isabel has grown up quickly. She can express her thoughts in words and has much better control over her body. The girl asked if there was any news from her mom and dad. She felt sorry that they were busy and couldn't see her. The nanny promised to celebrate the birthday for both of them. So there are 5 minutes left until Isabella's birthday ends. The nanny invites the girl to light the candles on the cake. The main character found the cake very tasty. Using magic, Isabella lights the candles by snapping her fingers. And now the nanny invites the girl to make a wish. Isabella made a wish that she would spend her next birthday with her mom and dad. The nanny warned her that she needed to blow out the candles before the end of the birthday. Suddenly, Isabella heard a familiar voice somewhere to the side. The girl turned around and saw her dad standing in the doorway. Isabella became worried when she saw blood on her father's clothes. But he told her that she was not saying what she thought. Cerna asked him to change clothes and not scare his daughter. In fact, he didn't change his clothes because he might be late for the birthday. Cerna warned that his daughter might hate him because of such behavior. The mother hugged Isabella and wished her a happy birthday. The girl burst into tears when her mother apologized for being late. Isabella began to cry, and Cerna jokingly said that her daughter knew how to cry. The mother thanked Isabella for being with her, and Isabella answered her that she liked it when her mother hugged her. It was a warmth and comfort that she had not felt in her past life. And after some time, Isabella fell asleep in her mother's arms. When the girl woke up, she noticed her father in her room. He asked what she was thinking when she called him so familiarly. Isabella immediately apologized to him for this. However, formality was not always necessary. He allowed her to call him Dad if she wanted to so much. She is already 5 years old. Dignity and grace are important for a princess. Her father reminds her that she is still a child. Isabella is happy because her dad is here. She was tired and didn't notice how she fell asleep, and Ron was here all night. The book said that Ron's manner was like the universe. Once he even fought without sleep for 2 weeks. So Isabella hoped that he would get tired every day, and then they would be together. Ron thought she was thinking 2 evil thoughts today, but the girl asked him to at least tire him out on her birthday. And when she said that she only had 16 years left, her father's face changed. Ron asked her if she had any idea how small a number 16 was. 17 and 18 were also small things. Thoughts about this tired His Majesty. Looking at Isabella, holding her hand, the man gets tired. Hugging Isabella, he also gets tired. He also gets tired of thinking about how to prolong her life. He was tired of being surprised that this worthless time was so valuable. From now on, he will be 1,000 times more tired. After tears, Isabella told him that she seemed to have miscalculated. But Ron told her that she was smart and he needed to think carefully. Her mother left this morning for a financial meeting with the Duke. Then Isabella asked if Dad needed to go anywhere. He needs to go to the Arena Palace, and Isabella is moving today. He will have to accompany the main character. Isabella was very happy about this news. The children of the imperial family live in the palace arena. In fact, Isabella is looking forward to meeting her brothers. She still can't forget their graceful appearance at the ceremony, but now only the younger brother Mikhail lives in the palace. So, first of all, Isabella decided to get closer to him. Her father asked her what she was thinking about so intensely. This happened for the first time in the 5th-century history of the Volosians. The girl went to the palace arena, accompanied by the emperor. At the palace, they are greeted by the head manager, Delza. She asked if His Majesty was personally accompanying the princess. Isabella introduced herself and said how old she was. Delza asked her not to bow because she was only a manager, but Isabella said she wouldn't call her just a manager. She knows it was Delza who saved his father on the Hill of Pain 10 years ago. Her father was in critical condition, and Delza rushed to his side. However, Delza declined to attend the awards ceremony. Delza simply treats the princess with the respect she deserves. She was an outstanding swordswoman, commanding one of the strongest squads. It was a long time ago, even before the princess was born. As a princess, Isabella wants to honor Delza's loyalty, but from now on she will still address her accordingly. Isabel asked the manager to work together. Delza was convinced that the bad rumors surrounding the princess were false. For a 5-year-old, Isabella is unusually developed and well-behaved. It's time for Ron to go. He asked me to take care of his daughter. Delza noted that this did not seem like His Majesty. His Majesty should be careful, otherwise his daughter will become his weakness. Soon, Isabella notices a boy jumping up and down the stairs. It turned out to be the younger prince receiving a reprimand. Mikhail tells Delza that as long as she controls the sword, nothing else matters. Lancer is Delza's husband and one of the prince's mentors. If you think about it, Mikhail is no different from Isabella. He's growing fast, so he should look like a teenager at 9. Isabella told him he was cute, and Mikhail was surprised that she knew him. She remembers that they met at the selection ceremony. She also remembers how, looking at her, Mikhail said that they were cuter than her brother. Delza knows that if she continues, the prince will be stubborn. But Isabella asks him if he remembers what he said then. The girl tells him that he didn't think about what he said then. Mikhail asks in shock how she found out. Isabella believed that strong people do not admit that they do not remember something. But the girl told Mikhail that he was strong and cool. The boy asked in surprise if this was really so. Next time, he promised to introduce her to his friend. The prince, who always argues, quickly made concessions. Delza wondered what kind of person Isabella was. A few days have passed since Isabella moved, but her life has not changed. She has a new fencing teacher, Lancer. He told her that she could learn another technique. The man suggested playing house. Delza, his wife, asked what he was doing now. She also asked him to address her as is appropriate at work. Lancer admitted that he had completely lost track of time. Isabella felt the tension in the air. Mikhail runs up to them and apologizes for being late. He shows the little animal on his shoulder that wouldn't let him go. Mikhail promised Isabella to introduce her to his friend. At that time, she didn't yet know that this little animal would completely change her life. Isabella felt a strange energy coming from this honey badger. Mikhail says he fought alone against 5 lions. The world again and again makes the heroine remember that this is fantasy. Mikhail would have arrived on time, but he was saving this little animal. Lancer said he showed courage. Isabella noticed Mikhail looking at the manager. After all, everyone understands that all power is in her hands. Isabella was hungry and asked if they could eat together. After some time, Isabella came to classes with Karin. The girl noticed how attentive Karin was to her. But Isabella still understands that Karin is a powerful magician. And suddenly she tells Karin that she has a question. She asked if honey badgers could have complex mana distortion. This happens when they eat a mana-infused magic stone. Then Isabella asked if this distortion could be used. Karin understands that this is magical intuition. Those who can detect magical vibrations are considered geniuses. The main character was scared by the way Karin looked at her. Isabella felt like she could make friends with the honey badger. Karin suggested that they work together to explore this side of Isabella's power. So Karin increased the time of her studies, and several days passed. Now they are doing mathematics. Karin is explaining formulas. The princess always purses her lips cutely when she is thinking deeply. The princess found a magic number that must be squared. Karen was her main inspiration and a brilliant magician. When Karen explained the example, Isabella asked how they could solve it. She decided to apply the concept of imaginary numbers. The girl suggests subtracting the angle of a body in a plane. This can be expressed using the sine cosine and sine functions. Isabella decided that linear algebra and matrix calculations were needed. Karen asked who taught her this. Isabella replied that she had come to this conclusion a long time ago. Karen realized that the princess was truly a genius among geniuses. This needs to be presented at a scientific conference. If Isabella publishes this in a magazine, it will be her achievement. Thinking that Karen wanted to kidnap her, Isabella said that she didn't need it. Karen tries to persuade her, but Isabella refuses. Then Karen asked what if she stole her theory and published it under her own name. But Karen knows the truth, why the princess doesn't need fame. The time spent with the nanny is much more valuable to her. Isabella thought Karina was angry, so she apologized for upsetting her. Then Karen will go to the conference as the princess's confidant. At least Isabella is saved from the risk of being kidnapped. Since the beginning of record-keeping, not a single person bearing the mark of Narvidal has survived. This is God's punishment, like a death sentence. But Karen will somehow save the princess, even at the cost of her life. Mikhail found a honey badger and it bit him. He said he would bite him back, and Isabella told him to do it. With such tough skin, Mikhail's teeth would feel like a brush to the animal. She told Mikhail that the honey badger didn't consider him a friend at all. Mikhail, pointing to the animal, asks how she knew. Isabella combined the honey badger's mana and created a small spell. She invited Honey to sit with her, and the little animal immediately jumped into her arms. Honey took one look at Mikhail and said that he didn't like him. The boy asked in surprise why, and Honey replied that everything good was only for him. Mikhail considered him his friend, but Honey said he was just his feeder. Giving him one last chance, Mikhail asked him what he thought of him, and Honey called him an idiot. At the same time, sitting comfortably in Isabella's arms, he called her his protector. Isabella thought that this magic was really effective. The little animal asked if he had a last name, and the girl thought about it. In the end, the princess decided that he would be Kim Han Bi. Later, the princess put the honey badger's thoughts into writing. Isabella worked hard while Karen was away. A magician must have the ability to communicate with magical creatures. Karen wondered if the honey badger was really that smart. The princess's special power heightened the honey badger's senses. She naturally implemented the theory of mana enhancement. Karen tells the princess that she worked hard today, and she added that she is looking forward to her new achievements. The honey badger is warm and soft, it's nice to hug. But Mikhail soon took the honey badger because it was time for him to go. Isabella felt a little sorry to give it away because she had become accustomed to it. The nanny noted that the animal was cruel to Mikhail, but gentle with her. Isabella says that Honey is a good friend and is just shy. She suddenly remembered that Honey was very sensitive to heat, so she decided she needed to learn a cooling spell. Honey scratched Mikhail's face instead of gratitude. The boy threatens to scratch him too. He started to attack, but Honey didn't let him touch him. And the very next second, he disappeared somewhere. Mikhail was surprised that Honey could teleport. Later, it was time for Aaron to take on his true form, and so Honey Badger turned into an ordinary boy. Aaron's mother comes out of the cave to greet him. Her name is Camellia, and she is a black dragon. Aaron asked what happened because he didn't remember anything. Camellia asked his name, and he told her his name. He needs to keep his mind alert so as not to forget. She asked him if she could see what had happened. And then Camellia climbed into his head, reading his memories. In the end, the woman tells him that he had a wonderful experience. Aaron will definitely understand what she means when he grows up. To become a good adult, Aaron needs to do these things, and if he doesn't do this, he will grow up bad. Camellia decides to tell Aaron a story. Once upon a time, there lived a dragon called the Dragon of Absolute Destruction. This name seemed crazy to her, as if a child had come up with it. This is the story of a cousin's distant cousin. In fact, dragons are born predators. They can easily rule and use spells. The Black Dragon of Absolute Destruction had everything. But at some point he suddenly became bored. He decided to show his strength to the whole world. But one day the black dragon stopped destroying everything because a nice person appeared who promised to make him happy. He found the man nice and even a little funny. This is how cuteness stopped the destruction that was a terrible force. After this incident, the dragons began to understand that they were not perfect. They realized the dangers that could arise from them. That's why the law was established, why little dragons like Aaron had to study. For full immersion, the dragon's consciousness must be erased. This experience will remain deep in Aaron's soul. But Aaron decided to ask what Kim Hun-bi was. She asked where he heard it, and Aaron said it just came to him. He shouldn't actually remember this, and that's weird. The story of the black dragon was terrifying for Isabella. The teacher shares that this black dragon has many names. Isabella realizes that this dragon has done many terrible things. The main character hasn't been this scared for a long time. She had a feeling that the black dragon was somewhere nearby. But she should not be afraid, because brave warriors will punish the dragon. The black dragon became a guardian dragon, protecting the imperial family. Isabella doesn't remember the guardian dragon being mentioned in the novel, but she knows that the protection of the imperial family is her father's work. Later, Mikhail ate something hard and tasteless. The boy almost shattered his teeth with the bite. If you pour mana into this magic stone, the wind will blow. Everyday magic is not as developed here as combat magic. Isabella wanted to explore this direction. Honey said that he didn't like it at all. Isabella called Honey by his full name and he liked it better. Baton returned to the palace after a long time. He senses mana from the underground storage, not understanding who did it. And suddenly he noticed mana with his own eyes, recognizing her. Baton told Ron that no matter how hard he tried to find evidence, it didn't work. If Wilhelm is innocent, this will serve as a warning to the real criminal. In any case, Baton never liked Wilhelm. He asked if Ron had seen how Wilhelm looked at the princess. Ron saw Wilhelm looking at her with a greedy gaze. This dirty look is easily recognizable. Baton wanted to catch him back then, but he escaped. Ron is unhappy that Baton let him get away, but he didn't do it on purpose. Baton explains what he learned about how the underground storage facility froze. Most likely, the mana leaked out, that's why this happened. Simply put, it's a clumsy magician's mistake. Baton says it was the princess's mana that caused the freezing, but Ron wasn't surprised by this, not understanding what was so special about it. But the storage facility froze in the middle of summer as a side effect. Even outstanding magicians cannot freeze such a huge storage. This means that the princess's abilities are at an incredible level. In other words, she is an unimaginable genius. Ron said it was natural because she was his daughter. Now Baton understands why the princess likes Ron more. Time flies by quickly. The princess's 5th winter is approaching. Isabella, in her worries, didn't even notice it. She began to study magic and became busier. She heard that Wilhelm had disappeared, but she didn't know the reason, and she wondered if Karin's absence was connected to her father's disappearance. But Isabella needed to focus on the present. She thinks about something completely different when such pleasant formulas are in front of her. Mikhail runs up to her and invites her to go sledding. She has never tried it before, but her brother asks her to trust him. Isabella asked him to make a snowman, and for her sake, Mikhail agreed. The princess decided to trust him and agreed to the proposal. But suddenly, Delza said that they were forbidden to leave the palace without an escort. Delsa's husband wanted to go with the children, but she forbade him. At that moment, Baton appeared and asked what was about him. Isabella hadn't seen him for a long time, she was glad. Baton picks her up, saying she's become cuter. He almost died from longing for the princess. Isabella was sad that Bayan had left without saying goodbye last time. Baton recreated the sounds of a heartbeat using magic. But he asked what was sitting on him, and it turned out to be a honey badger. Isabella took it off, saying it was his friend and apologizing. She's sure Baton meant that he almost killed him. The girl asks Delsa if she will let them go with Baton. Sighing, the manager allowed them to go outside. She asked to take care of the prince and princess. For the first time in her life, Isabella goes sledding. But later she realized that she had underestimated the prince too much. The princess didn't think they would skate here. She doesn't know who opened the teleport gate to such a dangerous place. This gate is a magical device that allows movement, and such gates are installed at the very top of the mountain. Isabella was very scared. She was afraid of falling from here. Baton took the princess in his arms to calm her down. Mikhail, on the other hand, says that skating here is a lot of fun. He doesn't believe the nonsense that he'll die if he slides down from here. Mikhail got into the sled and rode down the mountain. Isabella was surprised that he took it so seriously. She closed her eyes in fear, asking Baton not to let her go. So Isabella stayed alive thanks to Baton. She guesses that maintaining such a gate is quite expensive, so she asked why they were installed in such a place. Baton was surprised that Isabella knew about the teleportation gate. He explained that it was all because these were the Elbre Mountains. The girl was surprised because she knows about it. These mountains border Mutanian, which Isabella also knows. The Elbre Mountains are a massive mountain range. Then Baton decides to ask how she found out about this. Isabella had to lie that she read about it in books. She almost blurted out that she had reread these books 17 times. Suddenly, the princess tells Baton that she is a little offended. It may have seemed like a small thing to him, but she was very scared. Baton recalled that he laughed too much because of the cuteness. Isabella was upset that her feelings were ignored, but Baton tells her that he was just happy. He was glad that she was scared because she was not afraid of the worst. Her calmness makes Baton feel helpless, and there Isabella was afraid to die and clung to him. This is what made him happier. He considered himself a bad teacher because he liked Isabella's fear, but Isabella didn't know that he had such feelings. Baton really does seem that upset. Baton suggested something to eat, and Isabella wanted a sandwich. There is a place with delicious sandwiches near the Imperial Palace. The princess's body failed her at the worst possible time. The sandwich turned out to be very tasty. Isabella is happy. Later, Isabella said she saw guards serving at the strongholds of the Elbre Mountains. Isabella is very worried about them and she feels sorry. They protect monsters in such a cold place, but they can't use teleportation. But the teacher said that they were ordinary people, and the princess had imperial blood in her. Ordinary people can use the gates only in emergency cases. But Isabella thinks there must be a reason for the imperial family to use this gate. She is sure that the gates were clearly not opened for sledding. The teacher reflects that she thinks correctly. Now the gates had lost their meaning, but Isabella guessed their original purpose. Isabella wants to create a teleportation gate accessible to everyone. Karen apologizes to the princess for being late. Today her face frightens Isabella even more. She suddenly reminds Karen of how she once called her life a gift. Before her death, Isabella wants to send Karen order. More precisely, she wants to leave something nearby that will remind her of her. Isabella wants everyone to have good memories. She tells how she recently went sledding with her brother. So Isabella said that she wanted to create a teleporter. Karen explained that at the current stage of technological development, this is impossible. But the princess told him that she had made the stone and asked to look. This is the magical stone of Reborn. It gives off coldness. At that moment, the girl realizes that she did not teach Isabella this. Isabella thought that the flow of mana could be converted from constant to variable. But all magic is based on linear flow. Isabella was scared, but she still decided to finish the sentence. She created 3 streams of mana with the same frequency but different phases. Isabella used a sinusoidal alternating current. Karen asked to explain what it was. Isabella said that they can reduce the mana cost when activating the gate. She applied the theory to the Reborn magic stone. By using a minimum of energy, it reduced generation costs. By the same principle, Isabella wants to eliminate the shortcomings of the gate. Karen believes that Isabella is truly a genius sent from heaven. Isabella didn't expect Karen to be able to smile. After some time, Karen came to Baton, who was on vacation. But she said that she came to discuss something with him. She immediately said that it was related to Her Highness. Baton immediately let her in, asking her to make herself comfortable. He began to offer her tea and various snacks. She asked if there had been any strange phenomena related to cold magic recently. Baton said that the princess's mana froze the basement. From that moment on, Karen asked to listen to her carefully. If they accept Isabella's skills, she may receive a reward. Karen thought that Byton knew about it, but no, she is sure that before he would have gone crazy with excitement. But Byton has grown a little and gained experience. Karen needs the help of a more experienced wizard. Byton thought she was hinting that the princess needed a new teacher. To be more precise, Isabella needs a wizard with knowledge of engineering. And the only one who contributes to this level is Wilhelm. Byton says Wilhelm hid like a rat. He tells how William tried to steal Isabella. It's funny that a great adoptive father suddenly steals children. Karen explained that Wilhelm needs her for many things. Therefore, if she goes looking for him, she will definitely find him. She must protect Isabella, whom she found at the end of winter. Kane decided to say goodbye to the princess before leaving. When she entered her room, she suddenly found herself attacked. It turned out to be Byton, whom she asks what was going on. He says that it was the princess who asked him not to let her go. Karen asked who he was trying to imitate. He asked the princess to help him tie Karen's hands. Lady Karen is too strong for him to handle alone. Isabella helped Byton tie Karen's hands. Karen asked what they were doing, but the question was ignored. Byton said it was the best bow he had ever seen. Isabella heard that Karen was going to see her bad uncle. Byton told her, but not in detail, just this part. The princess is trying to convey that Wilhelm is bad, that he gives off a bad aura. When she first met him, she got goosebumps of horror. Next to Wilhelm, Karen will become the main villain. Karen says she has to go, but Isabella won't let her. Isabella asked if she liked the bow she had tied it with. But Karen asked if she couldn't go because she was tied up. Isabella confirms this, thus declaring that Karen is hers. Isabella didn't want Karen to leave. She doesn't understand her motives. That's why she wants to introduce her to a better man than Wilhelm. The book wrote that there was an engineer who was sent to the Hervé Mountains. This engineer becomes Aren's main companion. In the mountains, he quietly studied magical engineering. Later, he will team up with the main character and become an assistant. That's why Isabella thought that he would help Karen's mentor. But the mountain range is very large, and it will not be easy to find. Byton asked if he needed to find him and bring him here. Isabella agreed and thanked him for his help. After some time, Byton finds Ron training. He said he might have to disobey the order. He needs someone to keep an eye on Wilhelm. Byton was surprised when Ron agreed so quickly. He must fulfill Isabella's request within 15 days. He needs to go to the mountains and ask for permission to use the gate. While Ron was being kind, Byton asked him to give him unlimited access to the gate. When Ron asked why, Byton said it was for his cuteness. Next time, Ron promised to cut his head off. Already at night, the nanny put the princess to bed. Today, everything went well, Isabella thinks. It's a good thing she asked the nanny to find a book about Taislon. She is afraid that Karen will find out that she has been reincarnated. As Isabella was falling asleep, she heard sounds from the street, but the girl clearly remembers that she did not open the window. Isabella urgently needs to call someone, but she can't make a sound. She is terrified at the very thought that it could be Wilhelm. But luckily it turned out to be a honey badger who missed her. The girl asked in surprise if he wanted to sleep with her. She will only feel better if she doesn't sleep alone. Honey badger is soft and warm and also smells nice. It would be great for Isabella if they always slept together. A few days later, Byton returned from the mountain range. He says that he met a man named Taislon. First there were poisonous games and fireballs, and now there are flying swords. Byton doesn't understand what kind of madman set so many traps. And while he was passing the traps, he noticed a hut. There are a lot of magical traps around this hut. At this moment, Byton met an old man. He called Byton an impudent boy with displeasure. He didn't like that someone was on his territory. Without waiting for an answer, he threw a huge stone at Byton. The old man asked why he was breaking into someone else's house without permission. He considered Byton a fool who did not value his life. But Byton was able to escape, and he asked the old man to talk to him. He introduces himself as the first counselor of the Vilochian Empire. The old man knew that Byton was a big shot, but he said that he had nothing to talk about with the swordsman. Byton knows that this old man hated people. Before leaving, Byton gives the old man what the princess gave him. The old man was genuinely surprised that there was a princess in the empire. Smiling, Byton says that their princess is unusual. But even so, the old man still refused Bayton. He said that if the princess wants to meet, then she should come in person. After this, the old man, using the teleport, disappeared. Bayton tells the princess that this old man is hopeless. Isabella guessed that Byton had been badly beaten. Even the main character had a hard time meeting Tyson for the first time. Isabella doesn't like it when Byton lies to her. Making eyes, the girl asks Bayton to help her. Isabella promised that she would not leave his side for a single step. Isabella likes the fresh air and the crunch of snow. In her past life, she couldn't even imagine that she would eat such delicious soup. And she didn't imagine that she would go on a hike with the one she liked. Isabella truly considers herself the happiest child. Later on the way, they met old man Tyslon. Bayton covered Isabella's ears and asked her not to listen to him. He asked Tyslon to watch his words in front of the princess. But the grandfather asked why he should listen to someone who is not a resident of the empire. Unexpectedly, the girl called her grandfather the same bad word, repeating after him. She uses this word to describe people who swear in front of children. Bayton almost lost consciousness because she knows such a word. Isabella doesn't think Tyslon is evil because the road here was pleasant. The main character Aaron also went through all the traps. If Tyslon truly hated humans, he would have strengthened the traps. The magical barrier has broken and the old man invites them in. Later, he repeated over and over again that he hated people. But one way or another, he still poured them tea. Isabella asked why he was researching magical exchange. She guesses that Tyslon actually wants to help people. And the princess feels that Byton's patience is running out. She was very interested in why such a smart magician was exiled. His research could help many people. Isabella knows that there are many bad adults in this world. Bad people never share what they have. The truth is that Tyslon loved people. Young Tyslon dreamed of helping them and making them happy. He wanted to share the magic that only a select few could enjoy. But after his expulsion, ordinary people began to persecute him. Nobody believed in his sincerity and persecuted him daily. Tyslon said it was all in vain, but it was in the past now. The world needs rich and strong adults, but Isabella loves people like that, and that's why she likes Byton. And she said she liked Lord Tyslon too. The princess declares that she is ready to help him. And she shows him the mark, explaining that she has a limited time. She appreciates every day and she really needs a kind adult. In the novel, Aaron said this when he was persuading Tyslon. It's all because Isabella dreams of justice. The world has given her 21 years, and she wants to thank it. Tyslon is surprised that a 6-year-old child considers his life a gift. Isabella talks about a honey badger that communicates with her. She says how soft and fluffy his fur is. If you touch its fur, you might think it was a cloud. In fact, Tyslon is simply crazy about animals. Later, a heroine named Raina appears. Her father asked her to be friends with Mikael. But Raina didn't like swordsmen. She considered them uneducated. Her father convinces her that since they are in the Imperial Palace, everything will not be so bad. Raina saw nothing attractive or sophisticated here. And while she was talking about this, she heard someone's voice. Looking out the window, the girl noticed Mikael and was surprised. But, rubbing her eyes, she noticed that he was no longer there. Raina thought she was just imagining things. Isabella soon returned home. She was very tired. Old man Tyslon said he would die if he rode horseback again. But Byton says his age is taking its toll. They returned to the palace and Bayton put the princess to bed. Honey Badger joined her and Isabella hugged him. The next day, Isabella wakes up to a noise outside. She peeks out from behind the door, deciding to check what's going on. Isabella wondered who was pestering her nanny. Raina stepped on the nanny's foot, saying that everyone here needed to be shown their place. The princess saw this and asked warily what she was doing. Raina was surprised when Isabella called her by her name, which meant she knew her. Isabella could not help but know the only daughter of the Duke of Rothschild. The Velocian imperial family rules the continent by force, and Duke Rothschild rules it with money. He is responsible for the continent's finances. Raina was almost Isabella's only friend in the novel, but Isabella succumbed to her manipulations and committed atrocities. It seems that Raina is completely unfamiliar with etiquette. Isabella started by asking if Raina would like to greet her. Raina, albeit with difficulty, asked for forgiveness. She greeted the princess and bowed to her. Isabella did the same in response. It was better that way. The princess smiled sincerely, saying that she was glad to meet him. Raina heard that Isabella had a rare toy. She chuckled when she heard that the honey badger's name was Honey. Isabella said that it was not a toy, but her friend. Raina doesn't understand how a toy can be a friend, but by calling Honey a toy again, she insults the princess. Raina wanted Isabella to give her this animal. She promised to pay her handsomely if she did so. Honey bit her finger, and Isabella replied that he was just defending himself. Raina burst into tears and said she would file a formal complaint. After this, she ran to her father with tears in her eyes. Isabella asked the nanny if her leg was okay, and then she told her that His Majesty was already waiting for her. And since everyone is already gathered here, Ron is waiting for an explanation. But before that, Isabella wanted to resolve one issue. Raina must answer for her shame, so her father must let her go. But Raina shows that she doesn't want to do this. She said that she was in pain, and Isabella asked what she meant by that. The girl's father tried to explain to the princess that people are not friends with animals. Raina demanded that the honey badger be sold to her, even though Isabella mentioned that it was not a toy. Isabella noticed how tenderly her father held Raina. But what is important is that Raina insulted the imperial family. She showed them that Honey responded to her name. But Raina's father said that even an aggressive dog would respond to its name. The name Honey was given to him by Mikhail and Isabella herself. This means that Honey belongs entirely to the imperial family, and despite her words, Raina continued to insult this name. And now it seems clear who is to blame. The father puts the girl down on the floor and asks her to apologize. Ron clarified that the imperial family only warns about an error once. He glared at them and said that they were just lucky now. Raina's father apologizes for not raising her well enough. It wasn't just Raina who had a cool father, but Isabella did too. Finally, Raina bowed to Isabella and apologized. The princess didn't want to quarrel, so she said that everything was fine. These families have a mutually beneficial relationship, but they do not respect each other. The imperial family provides a powerful military force, while the latter are responsible for finances. Isabella understands why they don't respect her at all, but she's not going to sit back and accept it. She needs to save money for the imperial family. Later, old man Taislon cooed at the honey badger. Isabella didn't expect him to like her so much. She sees the honey badger hinting at help. Isabella felt sorry, but Honey had to get along with Taislon. Taislon told Honey that he would teach him everything he knew. The princess promised Honey to kiss him for his good behavior. Raina told her father that she hated him. She cried and wished death on the princess and the emperor. The girl doesn't understand why everything ended like this. If she had not accepted the hand, she would have been branded a villain. It was on purpose, and Raina fell into Isabella's trap. Raina considers Isabella a poor half-princess. The father promised to do everything for her and asked her to stop crying. So another whole week passes. The nanny brings the princess the information she requested. It turned out to be a message about a math Olympiad. Taislon asked the princess if she wanted to participate. Karen wrote a letter of recommendation for her. The teacher realized that Isabella wanted to gain knowledge and experience. But in reality, Isabella wanted to participate because of the money. There shouldn't be any problems, but Taislon asked why she needed it. Isabella answered that for the sake of money, she wants to get rich. The old man explained that with such a small amount, she wouldn't even be able to buy a room. He just doesn't understand why she needs money at that age. If Isabella wants to help someone, she can ask her father for help. But Isabella wasn't happy with that. She needed to contribute personally. The newspaper wrote about a boy who was beaten and thrown out of the Rothschild house. His name was Narmor, and one day he would become the richest man in the world. If she allies with him, she won't have to worry about the Duke of Rothschild's influence. Arun returns to his mother, again remembering nothing about his day. The woman noticed that the boy was upset about this. He remembers how warm and calm he felt. His mother concluded that he had a good time. After that, she invited him to take a little walk. Arun noticed a strange glowing thing ahead. This is the dragon's domain, so outsiders cannot enter here. Aaron had never seen such a beautiful stone before. And it also seems that this stone radiates magical power. His mother said that this stone was a gift. The boy wanted to take it, and she allowed it. She feels many new emotions in Aruna. When the princess went outside, she saw many flowers. When the manager woke up, all the flowers were blooming. It reminds her of the incident in the basement, and she thinks it has to do with the princess's powers. Isabella picked up the red stone and asked what it was. Last night, the honey badger told her that he found it on the road. He gives her the stone only because it is beautiful. Isabella can't believe such a romantic honey badger exists in the world. The gemstone is an engagement gift. Isabella had never seen such beautiful stones before. Looking at these flowers and the stone, Delsa recalls a legend. Stone was used for proposals in the imperial family. If you swear on this stone, love will blossom. She explained that this legend was lost 200 years ago. According to one theory, the stone was stolen by a famous evil dragon. And according to legend, the missing treasure is a red stone. Now the puzzle in Delsa's head is starting to come together. She immediately dismissed these thoughts because it was impossible. Delsa decided that it was simply the princess's talent. A few days later, Isabella arrived at the Magic Association to participate in the Olympics. At that moment, she heard a familiar voice. Isabella can't believe her eyes that she is here too. The Imperial Jewel Appraiser declares that the stone is indeed genuine. The unique family method of smelting is evident here. He began to beg to sell him this stone, ready to pay whatever it took. But imagine his surprise when Delsa said she wasn't selling it. The ownership of this stone belongs to the princess. And he couldn't believe that she was going to sell the stone at auction. Delsa wants to lease out the stone because it brings enormous profit. A rent of 100 million Ruden per year is nothing. The fact that the treasure is under the responsibility of the manager is a guarantee. The man is ready to pay for the rent too. The contract will be renewed annually, although the price will not compare to the value of the treasure. For an appraiser of the empire, this price must be onerous. Delsa smiled when he agreed to the proposal. Meanwhile, Reina heard that Isabella would also take part in the Olympics. She was surprised that the princess hadn't heard how much they were talking about her in the news. Children under 14 years of age can take part in the Olympiad. Reina suddenly looked at Baton. He introduced himself and said what would happen to the princess. Reina heard about him and began to shower him with compliments. Isabella realized that Reina had fallen in love at first sight. She found it curious that the princess was interested in mathematics. Reina assumed that Isabella simply didn't wield a sword. But Isabella understands that she deliberately wants to quarrel with her. Isabella enjoys learning, so she decided to participate. She couldn't believe she was making a 10-year-old girl jealous. She wondered who was standing next to Reina. The girl introduced herself as Yuri. She is a commoner. This is the Yuri who was the thematic genius in the original. At the age of 9, she took care of her sick mother and brothers. The heroine remembered her, finding in her a resemblance to herself. Isabella was glad to meet her. The girl admits that she read the news about Yuri. Yuri was surprised when the princess called her strong. She allowed Yuri to turn to her for help. Yuri felt something inside her skip a beat. Baton is touched by Isabella because she is very kind. Even after Reina's sharp words, she remained unperturbed. Isabella asked Baton to spin her around a little more. Honey jumped on Baton's head, preventing him from moving. The princess immediately asked Baton to calm down. Honey got here secretly, as he himself said. The honey badger secretly entered the carriage and spent 3 days there. On the day of the Olympics, Yuri asked Reina if she had seen the princess. She noticed that Isabella's name was not on the list. Reina was angry that the princess didn't come. She was more upset by the fact that she did not see Lord Byton. Reina assumed that Isabella had refused to participate. She thinks that the girl is too stupid for such an Olympics. Yuri had to try hard because it would be a plus for the Rothschilds. The Velocians have never participated in the Olympics. And now the princess, who doesn't know how to wield a sword, decided to take part. If Yuri achieves better results, he will wipe Isabella's nose. And this will prove the difference between their families. Isabella couldn't believe she was actually at school. In her past life, she couldn't go to school because she was in the hospital. But here everything turned out to be much easier than she expected. Any science management student in Korea could handle this. After some time, the princess finished doing her tasks. At the Olympiad, if the scores are equal, the one who submitted the work first wins. So Isabella decided to go out just in case. She noticed that the teacher was looking at her strangely. A month passes, and the day of the results announcement arrives. Raina came here to humiliate the princess. The nanny informed Isabella that Raina had arrived to see her. The princess realized that she was interested in the results. Isabella came to say hello to Raina and Yuri. Raina immediately turned her attention to Baton. Isabella turned to Yuri and said that she was also glad to see her. Then Raina announced that Yuri had won first place. Isabella was genuinely surprised and congratulated the girl. She praised Yuri, saying that first place was amazing. Yuri felt awkward because the princess's reaction was too brutal. But the girl still thanked her for her support. Raina doesn't understand why they are so happy about Yuri's first place. But Isabella is truly impressed by Yuri's journey. Now the princess remembered that she wanted to check her results. And she asked Raina if she wanted to watch with her. As it turned out, Isabella took second place at the Olympics. But Isabella suddenly said that an appeal needed to be filed. Baton decided to find out what went wrong. Isabella scored the highest score and submitted her paper first. Next, we move on to the magical association Mirotel. The teacher asks if Isabella has come to challenge her second place. She asked them to let her show them the solution to the problem. They didn't believe that a 6-year-old child could write everything down so clearly. And that's how Isabella came to a decision. She can't understand how she ended up in second place. Before this, the teacher said that they could not allow the princess to take first place. Master Marnin could not lose to the princess. This must not happen, this cannot be allowed. He explained that the symbol she used was not recognized in mathematics. Instead of lowering her scores, they decided to give her second place. Isabella can't believe she made a mistake. Even if this symbol is familiar to her, it does not mean that it is used in this world. But the princess must accept it with dignity. Unexpectedly, teacher Karen enters the classroom. She told the teacher that the princess deserved first place. She asked him to look at the documents he had prepared for her. A month ago, Karen noticed that the princess didn't make a single mistake. She is sure that the processor is definitely using her. They can't let Princess Voloshin win. Knowing that the Gilgarai student would be participating, Karen understood why the difficulty level was low. They tried to maintain the prestige of the high magicians. She asked if the professors had read the latest issues of academic journals. The professor was the one who approved the publication of Karen's thesis. The man asked her what she was hinting at. The concept presented by Isabella was completely new, and Karen officially published it in magazines. The results obtained by the princess were accepted by the scientific community, and the professor accepted this formula for publication. 3 days later, breaking news appeared in the capital. Princess Voloshin became the youngest Olympic winner. This was the first time in the 500-year history of the empire. Residents noted that in real life, Isabella was not at all like the rumors said. There were rumors that the father did not love his daughter and that she was stupid. But in reality, this girl literally radiates graceful strength. People are touched even by her simple greeting. She was asked whether it was true that she almost lost first place at the Olympics. But Isabella didn't think that word was appropriate. Yes, she used symbols unknown to this world. The princess is nervous as this is her first interview. She confirmed that she does not know how to wield a sword. But, one way or another, they are all worthy of love and respect. People started asking Isabella even more questions. They say that the winners of the Olympics joined the Tower of Magicians. Isabella replied that she did not plan to study there. She prefers to study everything slowly and with pleasure. She wants magic to serve people, not wars. And suddenly Isabella says that she will sacrifice her winnings. She wants to help people who have dreams and desires. She will make sure that the richest man in the world is on her side. And all this is for her family. She wants to make the world a better place. Someone said that the princess has a very kind heart. She worries about people she has never even seen. People are proud to live in the same country with a person like a princess. After the interview, the princess was quite tired. The nanny showered her with compliments that she was wonderful. Isabella asks her to stop because she is embarrassed. The nanny is proud of the princess because she set a wonderful example. Isabella knows that Reina is upset about her first place. She thought that because of this, Reina might take it out on Yuri. Isabella worries about her, hoping that everything is okay. The princess asked the nanny to tell her news about Yuri if she heard any. The nanny agreed and asked her to expect a special dinner today. In the future, the princess will have many reasons to perform in front of a crowd. She is the sweetest girl in the empire, as the nanny thinks. Hearing some screams, the woman decided to check what was going on. It was Yuri, begging to be allowed to see Isabella. The nanny confirmed that Yuri was the princess's guest. But the security guard doesn't believe that she is a real nanny. She said that she had an ID. The man grabbed her by the clothes, saying that he had seen enough of this. He asked her if she knew how many fake IDs he had seen. At that moment, a red-haired girl stopped him. She knows the guard is lying when he says he checked her ID, so she checked it herself and made sure that the nanny was real. She made him bow and apologized to the nanny. And the girl herself personally apologizes for what happened. The nanny couldn't stop looking at her. She thinks she's adorable. Isabella met with a crying Yuri and asked him to explain everything. Yuri said that she stopped receiving support from the Rothschild family. She was kicked out despite being at the top of the Olympics. She was framed and told that she stole all the answers. They wanted to get rid of her, but there was no reason, so they framed her. Like in the original, when they tried to turn Isabella against others. But Yuri swore that she had not stolen anything and asked for mercy. The Velocians' support for someone who was driven out by the Rothschilds could lead to problems. But Isabella promised Yuri to find a way to help her. Later, Delza says that she heard the general situation. As expected from a manager who always knows everything, there is no benefit to the princess in helping, but she still wants to help. Isabella knows that Yuri is not as useless as she may seem, and the girl believes that Yuri will become someone important to her. In the end, the manager accepted her words, agreeing to help. But she needs the permission of the imperial family. Isabella decided to meet her parents in person and talk. So it was time for her to have dinner with her parents. What she could only dream of in her past life is happening now. This meeting is necessary in order to make Yuri her maid. Mom asks her what exactly she wants to ask. Isabella noticed the graceful movements her mother made. She considered her mother unique, promising herself that she would grow up to be the same. The princess says she wants Yuri to become her maid, but the father suddenly smiles and replies that this idea is ridiculous. Cerna warned him that the child might misunderstand everything. She meant that there was no point in listening to the opinions of the Rothschilds. Then the girl asked her dad if he was angry with her. When he replied that he had not, Isabella thought he was lying. Suddenly, the man sat her on his lap and told her that she could do whatever she wanted. Isabella had heard that even the smallest thing could become a great weakness. But that's not something she needs to worry about, her father said. He convinces and reassures her that he is stronger. Later, Delza asked her why she was so worried. Isabella understands that if Yuri moves to the capital, it will cost a lot of money. She doesn't mind spending money on Yuri, but if she spends it all, she won't have any money left to support Namor. But the heroine doesn't want to give up either her or him. Delza said that the princess would receive 100 million Ruden annually. The amount seemed impossible, but it was true. The girl was so happy that she ran into the manager and hugged her. She asked that if the net income was so high, then what was the profit? Deza asked her to let go, and Isabella asked her to try to break free herself. Aaron had fragmentary memories after his transformation, and thinking about Isabella, he feels happy. And this time the boy wants to try to remember everything. When he transformed into a honey badger, he didn't understand where he was at first. Besides that, he didn't even understand who he was. All he knew was that he wanted to see the princess. When Aru came to her, he became himself again, wondering who she was. Isabella is a child to him, shining like the sun. The next morning, Isabella found him next to her in the guise of a honey badger. Baton's subordinates went to see Yuri and her mother. Something happened outside, so Byton is forced to check. The red-haired girl asked the animals if they were okay. Isabella stared at her, instantly recognizing who it was. In the novel, she was described as the captain of the outer defense of Kiren. The heroine doesn't believe that her favorite character is standing right in front of her. Kiren was surprised when Isabella addressed her. The girl enthusiastically asked her for an autograph. This is the first time that a member of the imperial family has asked Kiren for such a thing. Isabella covers her with endless compliments, hugging her. She actually rides a horse, led by her favorite character. They soon arrived at the place where Yuri and her mother were waiting for them. Yuri said that thanks to them, they safely transported her mother. Isabella heard that her mother was not feeling well and wanted to check. She opened the carriage and found a sick woman apologizing for not being able to greet her. The woman was ashamed that she had failed to maintain decorum. The woman's gaze reminded the girl of her own in a past life. Yuri thanks her for hiring her. Thanks to Isabella, Yuri can continue his studies. Isabella realized that she had completely forgotten about her pain. At that moment, it was as if a phantom pain from the past overtook her. Just moving was already unbearable pain. Yuri's mother had heard a lot about Isabella, that she was a kind person. She thanks her for showing Yuri that she is not alone. Isabella realizes that this woman is not like her past self. The main character from the past could no longer move. And she didn't need the worthless pity of doctors. Everyone honestly thinks it's a good thing they're not in her place. She couldn't see anyone and asked everyone to leave. Although her relatives came because they wanted to see her, she considered everything a lie, but Yuri's mother is different from her. It must be much harder for her, but she is much stronger. Isabella wants to help her so that the woman does not have to go through what she went through. And she will do everything she can to cure her if she can. Of course, there were people who genuinely cared about her. There were those who hoped for her recovery and loved her. They felt the same as she did now, seeing Yuri's mother. And that's the real reason Isabella wants to help others. Forcing a smile, the girl asked the woman not to worry too much. Yuri is an amazing person, and she is sure that they will not be separated. Later, Yuri was already preparing a sweet dessert for the princess. She shares the recipe and what she adds to her mix. When she finished, she brought dessert to Isabella. In her past life, the heroine never tried this. Now that she tried it, it turned out to be very sweet and delicious. Isabella thanked Yuri, and she said that she would cook something else for her. Yuri's incredible talent is discovered, and Isabella decides to study with her. 6 months passed, and Isabella still had not found her Narmor. But with the arrival of Yuri, life became brighter, and soon Isabella turned 7. Isabella came to Karen early because she wants to show her something. The teacher noticed that the girl was hiding something behind her back. And then the princess says that she has completed the teleportation gate. Then it all starts with a journalist from a large corporation named Yuri. Yuri introduced himself as a journalist and began to talk about an article he had recently written. He shares how the princess won first place at the Olympics. Today he was called early because the matter concerns the imperial family. This guy decided to pass on everything, no matter what the news was. But once he was asked if he had forgotten that Whisper's sponsor was a magic tower. He was asked not to make trouble with this tower. Yuri was asked to forget about his journalistic spirit and sense of duty. And yet, a journalist must convey the facts as they are. Today is the day of the presentation of the new teleport. The guy noted that the princess looked unwell, not understanding what was going on here. Isabella reproached herself for daring to make a mistake. She had not thought in advance about who would be the first test subject. She was so focused that she missed the most important thing, and it was necessary to check the safety of the teleport before its demonstration. Now Isabella is being bombarded with a huge number of questions. Baton got angry and asked everyone to move away from the princess. But she tried to stop him because they didn't say anything bad. The main users of the teleport will be residents, so their opinions need to be heard. Isabella would like to disassemble the device and present it after final testing. It seems that she worried everyone for nothing and apologized for it. But suddenly Ron announces that he himself will enter the teleporter. Isabella said she could do it herself, but it was unacceptable. Byton said that even if the test is successful, it will not be definitive. The same applies to him, the swordsman mage, although Ron replied that he would be fine. Then Cerna appeared, who was ideally suited for the role of test subject. She asked her husband not to worry, that everything would be fine. Moreover, they have nothing to worry about because Isabella is their child. Of course, Cerna doesn't volunteer thoughtlessly. She knows better than anyone how carefully their daughter did this work. And above all, she told Isabella that she believed in her. After this, the woman approached the teleport. A second later, she disappeared, as if with a snap of the fingers. The princess understands in her head that it is safe, but her heart screams otherwise. She began to worry that there was an error in her formulas. She felt uneasy at the thought that the teleport could harm her mother. The princess became even more worried because of these thoughts. Her father took her hand and asked her to believe in herself. Isabella feels his support and obeys him. Later, people began to ask if Cerna would definitely emerge unharmed. Everyone is discussing that Her Majesty is still not here and that something has gone wrong. Suddenly, a snowball flew into His Majesty's face. It turned out to be the Empress who emerged from the portal. Portal testing appears to have been successful. Ron asked her to calm down, laughing at her actions. Isabella also rushed to hug her mother after her return. Someone from the crowd asked the princess if they could use the teleporter. Isabella looked forward and asked who it was. The man turned out to be a worker from the Hervé mountain range. They are proud and happy to protect the mountains. But steep slopes and dangerous snowstorms leave severe damage. No one could have imagined that the teleport would gain quick access to the mountains. After today, a lot can change in their lives. The man will thank the princess for such a brilliant construction. The newspapers write about a teleportation gate created by a 7-year-old princess. Journalists wondered if the young princess could understand the difficulties of hard work. A little later, the knight chased the honey badger, trying to catch it. The honey badger ran to Isabella and jumped into her arms. The knight asks to catch the animal, and she asks what happened. He said that Honey had stolen gold coins from the imperial treasury. Isabella explains that stealing is strictly prohibited. Honey believes that money equals joy, wanting to make the princess happy. And she's glad that he cares about her, but he can't do that. Trying to bring joy in a bad way is wrong. Isabella noticed that the honey badger looked sad, as if he was about to cry. But she can't give in to these feelings because Honey doesn't look remorseful. The princess ordered him to stand against the wall and raise his paws. Honey is upset that Isabella is angry with him. As he walked down the corridor, he crossed paths with His Majesty. Ron didn't intend to hurt him. He asked Honey to relax. Suddenly, he asks if Honey is the dragon that protects the Empire. Honey can't answer this question, so he runs away. He tells himself that he is the honey badger, Honey, but the name Aaron comes to mind. A descendant of the Black Dragon who protects the imperial family. Honey Badger has transformed back into Aaron, who knows he is a dragon. In the morning, Isabella woke up and went to do her morning chores. When everything was done, she immediately changed her clothes. The princess became a completely different person, and she found it funny. As expected for Byton, freckles suit her very, very well. It looks like tiny stars have fallen on her cheeks. Isabella asked if she could help him, and he agreed without hesitation. But Byton is already beginning to regret that he decided to take the princess with him. But he hopes she will have pleasant memories of this time. And he will always be on her side, no matter what happens. But in fact, something did happen to Isabella. Yuri was so focused that the princess decided that she needed to do everything quickly. The cookies Yuri made her one day were incredibly delicious. Next time, Isabella decided to ask what kind of treats she likes. The girl overheard the maids talking about the Althea Kingdom requesting help from the Mage Tower. They thought it was due to the earthquake that was rumoured. A strange phenomenon occurred in that area, going beyond predictions. There weren't enough volunteers, so the Queen asked the magicians for help. But the problem is that the tower is not interested in helping the unfortunate. Isabella, hearing this, ran to tell her dad that she wanted to become a volunteer. This already seemed funny to him, and he asked if she was serious. He reminds her that she is a princess and only then a magician. But for Isabella, status doesn't matter in a situation like this. Ron said he would send them donations in his own name, and that would be enough. The man reminds the princess that she is only 7 years old. He asked her to act her age. Mom added that they were saying this because they were worried about her. She is still very young and it is extremely dangerous, so they cannot let her go there. Even if Isabella were an adult, her mother isn't sure she would have let her go. At some point, the woman became quiet and blushed. His Majesty proposes to close the subject at this point. When Isabella was already asleep, Baton came into her room. He doesn't understand how Isabella can think about helping the unfortunate. They understand what Isabella feels, but she needs to understand them too. Looking at the girl, Baton thought that she was having a nightmare again. He must help and fill her dreams with only good moments. But suddenly, Baton notices that Isabella is crying in her sleep. She muttered in her sleep and asked to stop hating her. After this, Baton comes to Ron, wanting to talk to him. The man already guesses that this is connected with the princess. He only needs to look at Baton to understand this. Baton declares that he will always be on the princess's side. He says Isabella always wanted to help people. And now, most likely, the princess wants the same. Ron said it was enough that people would use the portal. In fact, Baton thinks exactly the same as Ron, but he thinks it's absurd that Isabella would volunteer in such a place. He is unsure whether it is right to impose the judgments of adults on the princess. And then he asked Ron if this was really the best decision for the princess. He asked him if he had seen the latest news in the newspapers. Isabella doesn't show it, but she's actually very worried. Ron said he could handle it, but Baton said otherwise. We need to not block such articles, but understand that this is a minority opinion. Then it will become a little easier for His Majesty himself. You won't have to dig through books to find anything anymore. But Ron still doesn't want to see Cerna worry. Baton promised to go with her and that he would keep an eye on her. He will not allow any danger to come near the princess. At that moment, Cerna unexpectedly entered the office. The woman asked if she could join their conversation. A major reconstruction of the place where everything had been destroyed began. Isabella was surprised that the people here were so cheerful. Baton noted that the condition was much better than he expected. Isabella didn't understand how it happened that no one was hurt after the violent crash. He assumed it was all thanks to Holy Queen R'lyeh. R'lyeh rules the kingdom of Althea and analyzed the waves long before the earthquake. She personally supervised the restoration work. Thanks to this, everything ended with such small losses. Baton asked Isabella to find the boss, and he would tell her how to help. The chief likes any food, as the residents discussed. No other region in the affected area had such delicious food. They are grateful to those who came to help from other regions. And then one of the men noticed an unfamiliar girl. Isabella came to help as a volunteer. She is a volunteer. But they didn't believe in her magic, thinking that it was simply attributed to her. They believed that such people come to help only for the sake of the title. They didn't believe in this child, thinking that she was useless here. The worker was about to say something to his boss, but he couldn't. Then the boss turned around and almost choked on his food from what he saw. Isabella saw where her first volunteer work would take place. She allowed Baton to rest and pick her up later. But he decided to stay nearby and help people. But she knows he does this so that those around him don't feel uncomfortable because of the security. And now the princess began to think about what she should do. She was asked to bring some water because it was very hot here by the stove. Isabella also felt herself starting to sweat. She had an idea and showed the magic crystal. The girl explained that this stone radiates coolness. The worker explained to everyone that there was a magic stone here. And now everyone understood where the fresh breeze came from. Baton has already managed to tell how this stone is constructed and works. Isabella was ashamed of this, but nothing could be changed. But later everyone returned to work, and the princess was saved. Brigadier Hector met her and bowed to the girl. He tells her how he watched her and noticed that she was a sorceress. Hector said that there is one place where help is desperately needed. Isabella didn't even believe it at first, but he confirmed it. Then she agreed to go anywhere where she could be useful. The princess prepared the mana crystals and set off with the foreman. And what she saw there impressed her greatly. This area was the hardest hit, and work is progressing slowly. With some techno-magic, you could build a crane here. She warned them to give her another job when they finished. At first, she decided to install a motor so that the winch would move on its own. Hector is really surprised that Isabella uses magic. Soon, everything was ready, and Isabella invited him to take a look. The girl asked him not to tell anyone if nothing worked out. The man laughed at these words, although there had been no failure yet. But it wasn't that, it was that she was too cute. Isabella apologized because she had poor mana control. But Hector's poor butt wasn't the main problem right now. The princess saw that the foreman was holding the rope with one hand. And despite this, the stone at the top still holds. It's just unbelievable, so Isabella has nothing to apologize for. The man asked her to enchant the winches, and she agreed. The foreman ordered everyone to stop work, and the sorceress would help them. Byton says the princess is beautiful and talented. Isabella said she wanted to get started on the next task as soon as possible. Of all this, there was one more exciting moment. She was asked not to overexert herself because the physical work would take its toll. Hector noted that Isabella was having fun fiddling with the shovel. The heroine understands that she doesn't feel bad at all after so much work. That night, when Isabella was sleeping, she had nightmares again. Aaron sits next to her and observes her condition. In her sleep, Isabella smelled something sweet. She thought it was honey, so she hugged him. It's amazing how he strokes her head and the fear disappears. She was no longer afraid. She thanked Honey for that. Arun became a honey badger again, saying it was a sign of his courage. Isabella felt like Honey had grown larger and more majestic. Honey really had a powerful aura. For Princess Honey, he is not just any honey badger, he is special. The honey badger was priceless to her, and he agreed that she valued him. At that moment, the girl asked Honey to make a promise to each other. Honey has been given a name and can live with her for a long time. Isabella wants him to outlive her and always be by her side. Honey Badger agreed with her without a doubt. She thought Honey looked a little sad, but now the princess is warm and truly comfortable. Soon, Aaron returned to his mother in the cave. The boy said he liked being a honey badger. Mom concluded that he only had good memories. Aaron doesn't remember anything, but he feels at ease. Everything that happens to him remains as a feeling and makes him stronger. Then the woman wanted to check his memories again. If memories had been bothering me, my mother would have erased them. Aaron gains experience that is not available to a normal dragon. When he was left alone, he remembered some things, though not everything. He remembers about Honey that he should always be there. Aaron should not forget Honey and always remember him. And he must not lose himself as a dragon because his power serves Isabella. Soon Aaron's mother met her sister. Camellia told her that she was her sister, whom she had not seen for a long time. If she were another dragon, she would have released flames. But her sister's weak flame only tickled, so Camellia said she would survive it. However, Camellia came to her sister for advice. She said they needed to discuss Aaron. She knows that Aaron remembers his life as a honey badger and hides it from her. And she, in turn, pretends not to notice it. This way he can lose his dragon essence and become like his mother. She says that he often meets Isabella. Aaron thinks Isabella is special, so he hides her memories. Then the sister asked what she was going to do. Camellia replied that she would follow her advice. She also had a period when it was difficult to make decisions. Dragons, unlike humans, are not bound by blood ties. Camellia wants her sister to consider her son Aruna as her nephew. Then she thought that she should have erased Aaron's memories faster. She knows one dragon who survived teenage rebellion. He was like a human, but retained his dragon essence. So is Aaron, so confident in his goal that he even deceives his mother. They will make a decision on further processing of Arun after the meeting. Sister needs to see both Honey and Isabella with her own eyes. Isabella met with Queen Rayla. She was delighted to see her and talk to her in person. At first glance, the girl seemed open to her, but she was Velocian. Her image may be carefully crafted, and she is a genius who won first place at the Olympics. Rayla told her that she was supposed to meet her upon arrival. Isabella hoped that she was as strong as her father, but she was wrong. Isabella's residence will be transferred here, but if she refuses, she will immediately go back. Isabella agreed to this condition without any problem. Rayla asked if Isabella remembered how the day of the council meeting ended abruptly. She asked the princess to tell her what happened that night. His Majesty, who never tires, unexpectedly completed his will that day. But it was because of Isabella, who told him that it would be good to be tired. She said that it was her birthday and he gave her a surprise. Rayla couldn't believe that the Emperor himself cancelled all plans because of her birthday. She realized that the princess was not one to give out information easily. She doesn't have many birthdays left to consider this one special. Isabella asked her not to feel sorry for her because she was spending her days very happily. Isabella didn't need a reason to start volunteering. She wants to do everything she can because she has less time than others. Ryla hopes that Isabella will remain as reliable as she is, and the princess promised her to try her best. Lately, Hector has been asking Isabella more often about magical engineering. When all the work was finished, the princess began to help physically, and every evening she returned to the room to rest. But she wasn't upset that everything hurt because she was a useful member of the team. Every time she realizes how good it is to have a strong body. It was already 9 o'clock, and if Honey saw her, it would be the end. Isabella doesn't understand how Honey manages to arrive at exactly 9 every time. He's a little late today, and the girl hopes nothing happened. In the morning, Baton noticed that the princess had not saved well. She said that the honey badger didn't come yesterday, and she was worried. But Baton asked her not to worry because he had never seen anyone braver than Honey. Since he is on vacation now, he has a lot of free time. Isabella didn't understand why he was here then if he was supposed to be resting. She thanked him for his kind words, but she still felt sad. Baton wants to start looking for the honey badger as soon as possible. He doesn't know where to look for the honey badger that prevented the princess from getting enough sleep. It all came down to the fact that Baton met that very woman. She had the honey badger in her hands, but she was in no hurry to give it up. She noticed how Baton grew because he was her student. She reminded him how he almost died when he decided to be insolent to her. Baton was in no mood for jokes and asked her to put away her weapon, but she said that he should be grateful to her that she did not kill this little animal. Baton feels the difference in strength is still colossal. Isabella arrived unexpectedly, confused and frightened. The first thing the princess saw was a damaged Baton. The woman told her that this meant that she was the owner of this little animal. Turning around, Isabella saw the man who had stolen Honey. Her body did not obey her when she became very scared. But she couldn't cry, she had to save the honey badger. A woman was bitten by a honey badger and wants compensation. Baton wanted to sort things out, but it was Isabella's responsibility. First, the girl asked Baton to put away the sword. She said that since she herself had named the honey badger, she herself would be responsible for it. The woman asked if she really thought he would spare her just because she was a princess. But Isabella knows that she is not going to forgive her because of the title. She recalls a similar character described in a novel. This person is the Duchess of Robina. Robina repays the debt tenfold. She asked what Isabella could give for the life of this worthless man. Isabella decided to sacrifice the last year of her life. If you come to the temple, you can get sand that hasn't fallen yet. This is the second reason why this mark is called a curse. Because of this, children often become victims of human traffickers. They are used as sacrificial lambs to bring about miracles. If Isabella had not been a princess, everything might have ended sooner. Although this does not mean that Robina is ready to feel sorry for her. She asked if the girl really thought that a year of her life was enough. She herself does not believe that everyone in life is equal. Robina offers her to give 5 years of his life. Isabella agreed after some thought. Robina sees how brave she is, as if she knows no fear. The woman asks the princess not to deceive her. Now she has responsibilities, and she can't just give up everything. She promised Hector to strengthen the mechanism every day. Only she can handle these things, so she needs time. As a sign of her promise, the princess decided to give her something. This is the wreath she wove with honey. This flower ring doesn't look so bad, as Robina admits. Isabella asked Hector how long it would take her. She asked him to give his exact answer. The man answered hesitantly that 5 days would be enough. Robina threw out the honey badger and said she was giving Isabella 5 days. Isabella took honey and Baton said it was all his fault, but the princess said that this was not true because she was glad that she was able to save honey at least this way. But Baton blames himself because he promised to protect Isabella. Meanwhile, Robina met with someone, telling him that she had lost track of time. She asked if it was really fashionable to immediately grab the sword. The hooded man warned that if she took 5 years from Isabella, he would take her head. But Robina asked if he knew what would happen to the princess after this. She also asked if he was really going to declare her his enemy. In her opinion, 5 years were not so important for him. But the man replied that he didn't care who Robina was. It turned out to be Ron, who said that Isabella was the most important thing to him. Robina has watched Ron for decades, but this is the first time she sees him like this. Subtly, but definitely, she senses his fear. For the woman, this spectacle seemed completely new. She told him that she understood everything and asked him to put away the sword. Robina abandoned the idea of taking 5 years of the princess's life. Ron's reaction to this situation interested Robina. She asked if he would have really gone all the way if she hadn't backed down. Laughing, the woman asks if Ron is really ready to fight her. It's surprising that Ron could feel fear over such a tiny princess. The man put on a clumsy cloak and hid in the shadows, watching his daughter. An absolute who has transcended the limits of humanity, but at the same time a man full of fear and love for his daughter. Robina doesn't intend to take Isabella's life, but she needs to check something. One of the workers says about the princess that she is a real sorceress. Another worker shares how easy and simple the princess makes her job. Isabella hid her identity because she didn't want others to feel uncomfortable. Hector asked if anyone doubted the princess's intentions. He asked to speak privately with a reporter who simply wants to slander Isabella. The reporter is surprised that only good things are said about the princess. Isabella greeted him, saying that it had been a long time since they had seen each other on the court. He thanked her for making time even when she was busy. Isabella has already replenished the magic stone in the kitchen, so there are no urgent matters. Although time had passed since then, the capital was buzzing with news. Everyone was talking about the 5 years of life that Isabella would give to Robina. The reporter doesn't understand how she can smile at him sincerely under such conditions. Then the man admits that he needs to talk about something important. But before he could say anything, an alarm was heard from outside. Isabella ran outside and asked Baton what happened. He says that monsters appeared, 4 cyclops. Isabella was surprised because in the capital there is usually a protective barrier. But something went wrong because of the collision between Robina and Ron. A powerful magical blow caused a crack to appear, which led the cyclops here. Byton also reports that it looks like the fight has already begun. In the east, west, south, and north, everyone is attacking the gate. The northern wall still holds, and the eastern ones were safe. The Royal Knights defend the western gate, the outer ring guards protect the southern one. And fortunately, His Majesty is there. Baton convinced the princess that her father was strong enough to be there alone. Isabella already knows that her father can easily deal with first-class monsters. But she became afraid that something would happen and she would never see him again. Baton tries to calm the girl down, promising that nothing will happen. Now she just needs to believe in her dad and not tremble with fear. The north is the weakest, but now the main threat is in the south. Byton said he could fight a cyclops without any problem. The princess asked him to go to the southern gate and help the people. Baton asked Isabella to trust him and stay here. He also asked her not to do anything reckless. Baton promises the princess to carry out her order. Since the situation at the southern gates is critical, it is difficult to transfer troops. The northern wall, although strong, will not withstand the attacks of the Cyclopes for long. Out of desperation, the queen wanted to go and distract the Cyclops herself. This is the first time she feels so helpless. A servant bursts into their office, saying that an emergency has occurred. He said that Princess Isabella left a note and disappeared. Upon learning of the situation, the princess went to defend the northern gate. According to the maid's rumors, she left so quietly that no one noticed. If something happens to the princess, it could have a bad impact on all of Alfea. Even just hitting the wall created a strong vibration. The queen ordered to destroy the Cyclopes and go to the northern gate. As Isabella expected, the situation here is indeed serious. She trembles with fear, but she understands that she needs to hold on a little longer. But suddenly a journalist and a honey badger appear in front of her and come to her aid. Isabella asked, confused, what they were doing here. The journalist requested an audience with Queen Rayla to report. Rayla understood that with just volunteers, she couldn't write any cutting-edge articles. The Queen told the journalist how well he was slandering the princess's achievements. The fact remained that the princess conscientiously fulfilled her duties as a member of the imperial family. But for the sake of a good article, a journalist is ready to take a risk. Isabella, shocked, asks Honey what he is doing here. The honey badger replied that Isabella could not be left alone. The princess also promised to remind him of how he bit Robina. They say that the northern wall is the highest and strongest. And yet, even these monsters can destroy her, but Isabella will not succumb to fear. When she opened the door, she was surprised to meet Byton. Bayton knew that the princess would do just that, because she was stubborn. He said he would go to the south gate, but he felt she would go to the north. This is precisely why Byton respects her and worries about her at the same time. He picked Isabella up and asked if she was okay. When he noted that her legs were shaking, she said she was a little scared. Cyclops seems to be getting angry, and in such states he jumps high. Bayton said they would evade the attack first. At that moment, Isabella came up with an idea of how to stop the Cyclops. The girl asked Bayton if he would listen to her. She has a plan, but Byton could get into danger. But he knows that she will save him, so he asks what to do. Isabella asked Bayton to let her go and distract the Cyclops for at least a minute. The one-eyed giant prefers warmth, which means it does not tolerate cold well. Since Isabella is proficient in ice magic, she needs to take advantage of this. She said that she couldn't defeat him completely, but at least stop him. Bayton thought her strategy was brilliant and said she was worthy of the title. When he released the princess, he went to the Cyclops to distract him. Isabella's main goal is to prevent Bayton from ending up in danger. She is not yet able to cast combat spells. She needs something cold that she can imagine. She couldn't pick up any physical object because she would break it. She needs something that can stop the monster's movement. So Isabella decided she could represent the Arctic. Every day she dreamed of eating such a huge ice block as if it came from the Arctic itself. In a world where icebergs form the horizon, even a one-eyed giant couldn't cope with such cold. As Bayton thought, it turned out to be an unusual one-eyed giant. He wondered what the symbol on the monster's shoulder meant. Things weren't that easy with him, and Byton doesn't know how long he can hold out. But suddenly everything around began to freeze unexpectedly. Bayton immediately realized it was a princess, thinking how incredible she was. He tasted something sweet, like beans with milk. So Bayton decided that even now Isabella was thinking about him. Holding magic of this magnitude is very dangerous. It's a sweet bean ice cream with topping and condensed milk. She heard Bayton telling her to stop casting spells. He shouts at her that it is dangerous and she is risking herself. And only now did the princess notice that her nose was bleeding. The main character suddenly loses consciousness, but Byton manages to catch her. He feels that she has hypothermia and needs to take her temperature. But it seems that the giant froze and began to attack again. This spell was not one that could be dispelled so easily. Honey Badger Honey saw the state Isabella was in. This made him angry. Now he only needed to protect the princess. Yuri begins reporting from the scene while in the kingdom of Alfea. The situation is critical. The city was unexpectedly attacked by a giant. But Lord Byton and Princess Isabella had already arrived to eliminate him. As soon as the princess used the spell, everything around became covered in ice. Yuri has never seen the kind of magic that Isabella uses. This made him wonder who this girl really was. Yuri noticed that the princess was in danger, and even the honey badger was fighting, but he was standing still. The guy decided that he needed to at least distract attention. But suddenly Robina appears in front of him, asking him to stop acting up and mind his own business. She tossed the honey badger aside, calling him an annoying nephew. Robina acts only because she is bound to the princess by one promise. If the one who was supposed to give her 5 years of her life died right here, it would be a problem. Robin throws the half-frozen giant off and he falls down. Byton has no intention of thanking her, and she refuses to accept his gratitude. This spell was perfected by Princess Isabella, tiny but powerful. Robina is surprised that she was able to release such powerful magic. Isabella reduced the ice and increased the contact area, thereby expanding the effect. Robina suddenly shoved a piece of ice into Baton's mouth for him to try. It's impressive that the princess was able to recreate the taste using just her imagination. Soon she will eclipse the most powerful magician and become the greatest sorceress. The main character slowly opens her eyes, waking up. She smiled and told Baton that she was okay. The situation with the giant was serious, but Robina helped them. Before the girl had time to thank her, she saw that the honey badger was unconscious. Robina warned that he was simply unconscious and would wake up soon. Isabella called Robina terrible because they had an agreement that she would not touch honey. But Robina doesn't understand a word because Isabella chatters too quickly. The woman promised that she would not beat honey anymore. She noted that Isabella's character, it turns out, is fine. Robina is going crazy, just a little more, and she will become like Catalina. She ordered Baton to follow her to check on the giant. He warned the princess that he would be away for a short while. As expected, this giant is different from the other one-eyed ones. Robina asked him if he had any idea what the mark on the giant's shoulder was. This smell once haunted Baton for a very long time. It is the same as that of the Union of Magicians Miratel. And it turned out that this smell was the same as that of the magician Wilhelm.